And we're live. Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Theory Gang with myself, Matty Allen, the validator himself, David Feeder, and our guest tonight, Dan, the Hex Shark. Welcome.
Hello, guys.
Good to see you. Happy Tuesday, everybody. You guys doing
Looks
good?
like my internet is acting up, so I might turn off my video for part of this, but I'll be in solidarity with Dan here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. Go for it.
So there's been a lot going on in crypto here in the past week since the last time that we streamed, David. So I know we're going to have a lot of great coverage tonight of what's been going on. I know that Celsius is experiencing lots of trouble because they shut down withdrawals. Binance took withdrawals off for a little bit, I think, today and turned them back on. The deal.
Oh, I think we lost you there, Matty.
I'm still here. Yeah. So what's the deal? Looks like, even the CEO of Celsius, Alex Machinsky, he's said some not too kind words about HEX. And so we're kind of rubbing it in his face now. But on a serious note, back when Luna and UST had their big failure about a month ago, I put together a program, basically a suicide prevention program. And believe it or not, there were 9 people who signed up and created a suicide prevention plan. They followed the steps. I am telling people that 911 Pulse tokens when they come out, if people are willing to create a suicide prevention plan, basically. And so I'm just super thrilled that I could use my skills as a mental health therapist, and that people are actually responding to this. And so I put out the message again, and it seemed like the community really helped to amplify that message. And so, anybody out there who got wrecked, we want you to know that you're not alone, that, crypto, it's really volatile. And, for me, I can't be your personal therapist, but I've put together resources for you to get help by calling 911 or the suicide prevention hotline in your country. And all that info is at cryptosaveslife.com. I'll put the link in the description here.
Yeah, very nice.
So that's kind of our start here is kind of on a negative note, but in reality, when markets are down, this is when people really are able to make a fortune, and for a lot of people, the way that they're doing that is by dollar cost averaging in. Certainly, we can tie the huge sell-off in crypto recently to Luna failing, to Celsius having a failure. But also in general, there's the macro trends that are not in favor because the Fed is raising rates. The excessive money printing that kept going parabolic, it's not going parabolic for the time being. And so there's a big macro landscape as well. And I think people have, enjoyed different guests that we've had on, like Wendy's for Tendies, who was able to speak to both like the DeFi space and, and the centralized markets and the macro economy. Dan here is somebody who I've been looking forward to having on secretly for months and months. And the reason is because back when we had Quant Gang, Dan came on the show a couple times, and he actually called a relative top in HEX when all of the rest of us were still bullish. He had turned bearish, and he was right, and we were wrong. And so I can't wait for the update that you can give us, Dan, on how trading has been going for you in HEX and in anything else, and just what's been going on with you. You also checked in on how you've moved countries, and you were searching for the best place in the world to live that would be favorable to somebody who is like 21 or 22 years old, who's a multimillionaire from crypto? And so, yeah, why don't you take it away?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that I called it up. I was just warning everybody that, you know, 0.05 was like the point where people should be getting worried. I mean, I sold actually at 50 cents, and I've been having like some great trades after that. Like I sold at 50 cents, then it dropped a little bit, and I bought back, then it went back up again. I sold again, had like some profits on that, then it went all the way back down. I bought again, it went back up, I sold again, and the last time I sold was like above 10 cents. And now I was actually like waiting through this entire dip. I actually like made a little mistake. I bought like the first big dip that we had, like to 38 cents, like 0.038 cents, and then we had the recovery. We went all the way to 85. I thought like, hey, it's the run, etc. Like Hex, I mean, Pulse is gonna launch in like June or something. Then Richard started announcing that, you know, that it's not ready, and we went back down. Now we retested the 3 cent ranges. So I managed to sell again before losing anything. And now actually last time I bought was at 3 cents. That was my last buy, and I actually believe that it might be the bottom right here. So that's kind of, you know, a little resume of my trading for the past few months.
Have you been
Right now.
trading with your entire bag or a percentage of your portfolio?
Yeah, I don't care really. I'm trading with like 90% of my bag. Yeah, it's very complex to trade with it, because you know you can move the price to a lot, but you know I have a lot of time, so I can actually do some limit order tricks where I just put a limit order like right under where the price is, and if it moves up, I'll just, you know, cancel the limit order. I'll put it back up again and try to catch the price like this to avoid market buying. But yeah, I had like a little long-term portfolio. Most of it I have it available. I actually like most of my stakes. I launched them like in the first few months of when Hex launched, and most of them actually ended at the perfect time. Like they ended like in the beginning of this year / end of last year. So when I saw that we were in a downturn, like in an overall bearish market, I didn't restake them. So that's why I have like 90% probably that is available. 10% is stake long term. I don't even think about it, and 90% I just trade with it.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
so you're kind of eating some inflation, I guess.
Well, no, because I'm trading well. So literally,
Okay.
I sold above 10 cents. Now I bought back. I quadrupled my stack. Like this is like 5 years worth of staking. So obviously, that's not something that you should, you know, put like as a goal, because I can do it because, you know, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. I can sit in front of the computer all day and stare at the charts. But you know, most people have like jobs and wives, I guess, and families. They have like responsibilities. I really can afford to just not do anything. Also, like I'm a gamer, so I have fun on the computer and I work on the computer. So I'm staying most of my time here. I can play a game while looking at the chart on the side. That's why I'm able to just trade successfully and manage my risks very well. But that's not something I would recommend for most people, even though I would have still recommended most people to, you know, to sell at 50 cents, like just
What
not
amount of
trade the whole way.
experience do you have trading? I take it this isn't your first coin that you've dealt with.
Yeah, I invested in like more than 50 probably altcoins during the past like 2 bull runs. I invested in ICOs too back in 2017.
How old were you when you started investing in crypto?
I was in the illegal range. I was 17. So I had to use like the account of a friend of mine. I mean, I wasn't using his account like to make it legal, right? I was just telling him what to do, and he was doing the moves, right? He was 19. I was, you know, I gave him the money. He put it like using his passport, etc. He opened like a Kraken account, and he was doing things on my behalf. And it didn't actually work out very well in the first time, because, like, you know, like I entered towards like the end of 2017, so right at the end of the bull run, and then 2018 was like a very grinding and like long downturn, you know, always giving you hope that it's gonna go back up. It was terrible. So I lost a lot of money on that. I still came out like in profit compared to what I went in with, then I was just looking for other ways of making money, right? Like when crypto isn't doing well, I was looking at like, having an e-commerce business, having like a social media marketing agency, like things like these. Then when crypto started going back up in 2020, that's when I got back. I guess HEX was 2019. I went into HEX before I even went into the broader crypto market. I just found HEX, right? I was looking for something like this, right? I was searching like, hey, is there like some underground project that nobody knows about that is gonna pop off or something? I was looking for something like this. I remember I clicked on a Richard video because he was like with a woman on it. I was like damn, and so I clicked on that, and then yeah, came for
Thank
the
you for the
girl.
proof.
Came for the girl, stayed for Richard. I was like, hey, what he's talking about seems like very interesting. And then I started doing more research about it, and yeah, like I wasn't even looking at like ETH or BTC or anything like that. I wasn't caring about the market. I was just like HEX seemed so great. I just invested in it, and then I started actually caring about the market again in March 2020 with the dump, etc. So yeah, then I invested like in the early days. The best time to invest was like 2 months after launch. I invested like in the first week, so it wasn't the best time. I guess the price went like minus 90% or something. Like back then, as I said, I wasn't really following the market, so I just bought and I didn't care. If I knew that the price went down like 90%, I would have probably panic sold or something, but I had no idea. And also it was hard like in the early days to know what the price was because you weren't investing through an exchange, you were investing like through the AA. So you were just putting some ETH in and you had to do your math like on your own, right? You had to look at, okay, the amount of ETH put versus the amount of HEX received means that the price is something like this, right? So you had to do your own math,
Yeah.
and
And Uniswap, I had the adoption amplifier on one screen, and then I had the Uniswap
yeah, but
app on the
Uniswap,
other, and then you had to look at the Ethereum. It's like, how much
yeah,
Ethereum do I get per hex?
but Uniswap at that point it wasn't around too. So like the early days, I don't remember that Uniswap was around. That
It was
came
there.
after. It was there.
Like maybe a couple weeks after the beginning. Yes, not
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, you're right. It's
Yeah.
You're right.
I'm talking about at the very beginning where I just had no idea what the price was, so that's why I didn't feel like we actually had a 90% dump. I just
I had to go on Ether Delta, and that was pretty rough.
Wow, that's an old DEX. That's the original DEX on Ethereum. That's where I used to buy in the 2017 ICO craze, where it wasn't like Uniswap, where Uniswap has that smart contract with liquidity. Ether Delta was literally you post a buy order or a sell order, and then some other user has to come in and click on that order and fill it, like exactly, or just partially. And it was, oh man, wow, throwback.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fascinating, Dan, that you got into crypto so early and you found the right one so early. And what else have you learned on your HEX journey and crypto journey in general?
What have I learned about what? About like finance, about life, about like
yeah, I mean, we have a pretty long show, so we could break down each category if you want.
I mean, the fact that I need to think about it shows that I didn't really learn much. Like I can't think of anything in particular that I learned in cryptocurrency. I mean,
bro, you learned how to like 5x your stack when the price was going down.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I learned how to make money, and now I understand the markets better. I understand like the world economy better. Like I understanding the crypto market like also allows you to understand how people's emotions work better. You know how foolish most people are, how emotional most people are, how easy it is to manipulate them, how easy it is to scam them. So yeah, a lot of things like this, a lot of discoveries on how people do things with their money. And yeah, I guess the most important skill is to just learn how to 5x 10x your money. This is like the most important skill, I feel like. And the best part about like trading is also the best skill because I can apply it to anything, right? Like the fact that I know how to trade HEX very well, I can go and trade Bitcoin if I want to, right? So I can apply this to make money forever, I guess.
What are some of the things that you look at when you're deciding whether to buy or sell something?
Well, what's important is to not follow what most people will actually recommend you to do, right? Like I'm not using indicators actually. I'm not using any of the indicators that most people recommend. I'm using like resistances and support lines, and like the patterns, like the triangles and stuff like this, and the falling wedges. Those are actually accurate. The volume is also important, not on Hex, but in general. What I'm actually charting is the public sentiment. Like that is the real thing that people should care about. Nobody's talking about it, but I'm charting it in my head, right? Like I'm looking at like the chats, I'm looking at the Telegram, I'm looking at the Twitters, the YouTubes, and I'm trying to chart, in which direction the community is going. Because at the end of the day, what matters, like no matter how great the game theory with Hex is, no matter like all the fundamentals that are in it, as you can all see, it can still go down 92%. All that matters, and Richard actually agrees, he says it all the time, right? All that matters is people pressing the buy or the sell button, right? At the end of the day. So if you can predict when are people gonna press that button and you can do it before they do it, that's how you trade properly, right? So that's what I'm doing. And yeah, it's surprising that more people aren't talking about it, because like that's really the most important thing. You have to, yeah, you have to chart and predict how most people are going to react. So I guess a trader myself, right? I'm just putting myself in the shoes of other traders, and I'm imagining what they will do, and I just do what they will do before they do it. You know what I'm saying? like 50 cents. Like it was such an obvious sell. Like not only is it a psychological level, right? 50 cents. On top of that, it was like the 10,000x level
Yes.
that Richard has been talking about for like 2 years. Also obvious.
Yes.
On top of that, we went up 50x in the past few months. Like we needed to correct at some point. That's number three. Number four, we were in a parabola. Richard talked about like how Bitcoin went out of this parabola and it corrected. Hex did actually the exact same thing. It went out of the parabola, it went sideways, and then it corrected. So that was obvious, right? We broke the parabola. And people were a little bit too hyped up. Like I remember, that's when I was on the show, right? And you had like whales screaming at me, "You don't understand what you're talking about. It's mathematically impossible to go down." And that's when I understood, okay, this is when it's gonna go down, right? When people started to say that it's mathematically impossible to, I mean, it's not exactly what he said, but something along those lines. That's when it's going down. So those are the main elements, right? I'm not looking at like some indicators, like those like 5 or something elements is what made me sell at that point. And now the elements that made me buy at 3 cents, and now we're up like 10% or something, is that I've been thinking about this level since we were like at 10 cents also. Actually, at this point, I was just guessing. It wasn't backed up by much. But now, like no, number one, like it's also a psychological level, right? Like 3 cents. Number two, the Bitcoin, right? Hex follows what Ethereum does, and Ethereum follows what Bitcoin does, and Bitcoin follows what the stock market does. So like that's also like easy to predict what's gonna happen. Like I remember like a week or so ago, I was watching the stock market and went down, and then I looked at Bitcoin and it wasn't going down. I was like, why is it not following? I just waited. Next day it followed, right? It fell, and then Ethereum fell, and then Hex fell. So it's you can just watch the stock market and you can pretty much predict what all the three coins are gonna do. And so Bitcoin reaching 20,000 was like one of the main indicators, right? Because Bitcoin reached 20,000, that's obviously like a support level. That's like a psychological level. It used to be the top of the previous cycle. Meanwhile, Ethereum reached $1,000 also, like seems to be like a nice support level, and Hex reached 3 cents. So
Are these wicks that have happened in the past week, in the past couple of days?
Which weeks?
To 20,000? Are you saying it won't go lower than that, or did it actually go down to
No,
20,000?
what I'm saying is like I'm justifying the buy, right? I'm saying that the reason why I bought right now is because I believe that we are due for at least a bounce, right? I'm not saying it's like the bottom of the bear market. I can't guess that, right? But at least I believe that we're in for a bounce. Maybe like maybe I'll sell again at the height of the next bounce, and if Bitcoin goes to 13K or something. But like that's another thing that I want to talk about, because maybe it is actually the bottom for Hex. Maybe it's not for Bitcoin, but it might be for Hex. But the reason for buying is the belief in the bounce, and the belief in the bounce comes from Bitcoin reaching 20,000. And it's the same thing with HEX. Like HEX has been falling. Like if you look at like the daily or something, it's been falling for like so many days consistently. It's terrible. Like 5 days or something of
since
red
the 8th.
daily candles. Yeah, and so like we are due for like at least some sort of bounce. Plus, because HEX follows Ethereum and Ethereum follows Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin being at 20,000 and Bitcoin having gone down for multiple days and overall like weeks and even months, it's also due for a bounce, right? So what a better point to start bouncing than 20,000? Literally the top of the previous market, bull market, plus it's like a psychological level, plus all the YouTubers are talking about it, and you know people are going to follow what the YouTubers are saying. You know, everybody has been waiting for 20K, and that's why, yeah, that's literally the main reason. Now there's obviously like two possible like negative scenarios. Bitcoin could just go down. Like one not so negative scenario would be like Bitcoin going down and doing like a double local bottom on 20,000 and retouching 20,000. Maybe it's gonna, you know, scare off Ethereum. Maybe Ethereum's gonna go lower and HEX is gonna lower, maybe retouch like 2.9 cents or something like this. And the worst scenario would be if we don't actually get a bounce right now on Bitcoin, and if it actually just continues going down. Right now, it actually seems like that's what it's going. It seems like it's, you know, the bounce was like, you know, something terrible, like 10%, and now it seems like it's going back down again. So if it goes back down and it just plows through 20,000 and goes all the way back and, you know, starts to head for 13,000, then that could be bad, and then Ethereum could follow and HEX could follow and probably go to like, I don't know, 1 cent or something. But I'm still, you know, I'm still gonna bet on the fact that 20,000 is gonna be a, you know, somewhat of a resistance. I don't think it's just gonna go through it like that easily. It literally stayed on that level for like 1 day. Like, come on, it's been going down for like days and days. Like, come on, we need at least one little bounce, one little thing that's gonna make everybody believe that here we go, we're going back. You know, maybe Bitcoin back to 25K or something like this, 26K. If we'll follow, HEX will follow, and then we'll see. And then maybe, you know, Bitcoin is going to start reversing back down and going for 13K. And that's when Richard might come out and say, hey, PulseChain launch next week. And then HEX will decouple from Bitcoin and HEX will continue going up while Bitcoin will reach for those like 13K.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's all about the money printers at the Fed being turned on or off, really deciding how much new money is coming in. And I mean, Celsius, right? They are scaring everybody off, it seems, because they have leveraged, and so has Michael Saylor. And so they both had to scramble just to cover before they got liquidated. It's what I've been reading. It's probably true, but they both Celsius and Saylor both lowered their liquidation prices. Saylor brought it down, I think, to $17,000 Bitcoin, and Celsius, I mean, Celsius was supposed to get liquidated at 22.5, and they scrambled at the last minute, I guess, and put more money in, but they're still sitting in a very insolvent position as far as I can tell, because you know, instead of, well, apparently they put a bunch of money onto these different DeFi platforms where they can, you know, do leverage trades and stuff. And so right now, even though they're not cashing everybody out, they don't have enough ETH because they lost a bunch of ETH and staked ETH that lost its peg. And, you know, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we talk, that's where a lot of the Celsius liquidity is stuck. Just to go into that for a second.
Sure.
Is there something called ST ETH? It's staked ETH from a company called Lido or something. I've never heard of them until today. And yeah, like what Alex did in Celsius is they took their Ethereum and they traded it in and they bought this ST ETH, I guess like a while ago, and they like a lot, like hundreds of thousands worth, which, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. And now that they have all this ST ETH. Even if they wanted to sell and swap it all back to regular Ethereum, there's literally not enough liquidity in the pool, and they're stuck with it. So they have to ride it out. Like they're locked into that bet because they can't cash out. So yeah, so they have the price of ETH has to go up for them.
Yeah, and the reason they did that was because they wanted to compete against, you know, the 4% APY that everybody else was offering on ETH, and to basically rehypothecate it is really what they were doing with Lido, because they took the money out that they got from having liquid staked ETH, and then were able to leverage play on that. And so the rehypothecation, you know, it works for banks because they can print more dollars, but it is really hard to work in the DeFi space. And so I think it's, you know, that's a major issue that has not been resolved yet. Some people are reporting on Twitter that they were able to get their deposits out of Celsius, but there's not enough for people to withdraw because Celsius put like a third of their deposits into mining equipment. They put another third into like staked ETH. And so it's like a degenerate gambler. And now the issue is, even to service their loans, they're having to ask basically users are having to decide if they want their position to get liquidated that they didn't choose. They didn't choose to, you know, to put up their collateral in a way that could get liquidated, but Celsius chose that for them. And so either Celsius could pay them out $1 for each dollar that people are owed, or Celsius could try to post 150% collateral, which is requiring people to choose whether they want to put more money in or be forcibly liquidated. So it's like a terrible choice for people. So you've got, you know, so you've got that situation going on, and I mean, the conditions are really ripe for an investment bank to come along or, you know, a whale to come along and wreck everybody. This is probably a whale game situation that plays out here for Celsius and for Sailor, for everybody in Bitcoin and in crypto. And, you know, we all just need to, like, you know, hope that there's not anything more catastrophic. I mean, we've already had 2 episodes of top 20 coins becoming insolvent. And now, you know, the system probably can't handle much more. I heard that it was an all-time high for Bitcoin longs and shorts. And so that tells you that there's lots of money to be made by people manipulating these markets.
The cool thing about that is that as we have like more and more, as you said, like problems in the top 20 coins, the less people will actually panic about them because it becomes average, the less it's actually going to impact the prices. Like as we saw when Luna collapsed, like Bitcoin was heavily impacted, everybody was panicking. Now that we had like the Celsius thing and this Binance thing, most people just shrug it off and didn't care too much because it's like, you know, compared to Luna, it's not that big of a deal. And as we see, like the markets didn't get impacted by it. Like at the end of the day, I believe that it's way simpler than most people make it out to be. It's literally just people pressing the buy button or the sell button. If like there could be like the most terrible events happening, if people don't feel, you know, panic about it, and if, you know, they don't sell because of them, then it doesn't really matter. Like we had a lot of, you know, scams and coins like going bad and just losing billions of dollars during the bull run. That didn't impact the prices, right? People just didn't care and didn't talk about, didn't give too much attention to those like bad stories that were happening during the bull run. Everybody was just hyped. Right now it's the opposite, right? It's like the people right now are just negative or looking for the bad stuff.
Yeah.
They focus on the bad stuff, but the more bad stuff happens, you know, the less they care about them and the less it impacts the prices. But the overall recession, obviously, that does impact the prices. That, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's one more like crypto Ponzi that's going to could affect the Bitcoin price if it unravels, and that's Tether, USDT. If USDT fails, if
That
that
would be massive.
unravels, that will. Now it's a blessing and a curse, because it's a curse because Bitcoin will plummet if Tether gets basically deleted because it's not backed by anything. Then
Debatable.
Bitcoin will, and it is debatable. And this is just I'm just hypothesizing here. This would be my opinion. Like the biggest black swan that I'm worried about right now is USDT failing, but then it would bring Bitcoin down, but then we'd get prices. Once it bottoms out, then you'd find out what everything's really worth without Tether in the market.
That would probably be like the worst thing possible. So I don't think you can get any worse than that. I mean, the worst thing would be like if USDT, crashes, and the other stable coins too. Because I'm not using USDT, but if all of them start crashing and have issues, that would be just terrible.
I think just USDT and maybe DAI, because DAI is backed by USDT partially, but I think USDC, US dollar coin, that'll be fine because that is just backed by a bunch of bankers. So like it's a poker chip and that's how it works. But I don't know, man. That's the one black swan I'm worried about.
Yeah, same, actually, same.
I didn't really want to bring this up, but I guess in full transparency, I saw Coinbase turn off and on USDC the other day. And I think that it's actually a good thing because there were something got hacked. I can't even remember what it is now. This is like probably a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. And, something got hacked. And so they just took it offline. They took the sell button away for a few minutes and then it came right back. And, somebody had reported on Twitter that there was the same issue with matcha.xyz. And because this is such a advanced user show, I feel comfortable like bringing this up, that basically when a protocol gets hacked, like you kind of want to make sure that there's not any inflation bug going forward. And so, the fact that probably what USDC, like I talked to Future Us about like kind of what was going on there, because it was curious to me that Matcha and Coinbase both like, they both showed the same error, but they described it a little bit differently. And probably what happened was USDC has like a mechanism to like throw an extremely high gas value at the system in order to like temporarily block kind of like exchanges from doing anything with it, so that they can figure out whatever they need to figure out and then have it working again almost immediately. And so these two different exchanges, a centralized exchange, Coinbase, they were giving one error message, and matcha.xyz was giving a different error message, but they were both kind of saying the same thing, that there was some sort of unusual fees happening. And so so it wasn't going to work. It totally scared the shit out of me, of course. And I'm probably still a little bit rattled, but at the end of the day, it's important for everybody to understand like what the pros and cons are of that situation. You don't want USDC to have an inflation bug, or to get things off track, because then then it's not fully backed, which I don't know if that's a good excuse. That was basically the best rationale I could come up with. But people should kind of know that the crypto, it's been built with a lot of different pieces, and some of the pieces, the game theory suggests that, Luna and UST, like those were propped up by influencers who are getting paid to promote them. And, that creates a really unstable environment. And at the same time, HEX is something that's completely different, where we don't have as many negative externalities, and it's hard for some people to understand that. But at the end of the day, it's like whatever we pair our liquidity to, we're really kind of in the same bucket to some extent.
That's a good point. That's an interesting mechanic that they could use to stop people from transacting. And US dollar coin does have admin keys. I think if they even had to, they could like burn out of your own wallet against your own control. They can just blacklist your wallet and not accept your coin. So yeah, I mean, they can do whatever they want to USDC. That's completely centralized because they do report on Circle reports on their assets and their holdings. It's like 20% cash and like 80% bonds or whatever. It's on their website. You'd have to check it, but yeah, I mean, totally centralized. But that's its purpose, though, right? It represents dollars. So
Yeah.
that's cool. That's but yeah. Whereas, and then the problem with US Tether is like they don't show their reports, and like the guys from Bitfinex are like known scammers, man. Like they used to run Bitfinex, and then they invented Tether, and they're these international, they're kind of like Binance. Like they don't have an office, they don't know where they are, you can't find them, like they're beyond jurisdiction, like it's really sketch.
And I think at the end of the day, it's like there's situations where crypto can be in maximum fear and then revert, right? Confidence can be restored. New investors will come in, people will suddenly change their moods. And that's another reason why we have Dahn here to kind of break down what the emotions are and kind of what he sees as someone who is a successful trader.
And what's important to understand is that we don't necessarily need like new investors. I mean, we brought HEX to 50 cents with the investors that are already in like the market, right? Like we like just with the investors that are already around, we can go back to 50 cents if everybody that bought buys back again, right? Like you'd be surprised by the amount of people that are like me, just cashed out like above 10 cents or something. Like some people cashed out at 50 cents and waited all the way down and are just here looking at the chart and waiting to buy back, right? Like there's millions of dollars probably that are, like me, just sitting there waiting. I mean, I just bought back, right, yesterday, literally, but like, a lot of people probably don't think that it's the bottom yet. They're just waiting, and once it starts going back up again, they're gonna, FOMO in. And so, just with the people that are already around, we can go back to 50 cents. Then with all the new people coming in, right, we're seeing the socials of Richard going up, etc. Then we can go even higher. So it's one thing to try and bring new people, but it's another thing to try and reconvince the older people to stay or to come back, right? It's important to do both. It's kind of like some video games that are going down because the devs are trying to appeal to a broader audience, and they alienate their core audience, right, by trying to just get as many new people as possible, and so the core audience leaves, and it leads to worse results. So yeah, that's also something important to keep in mind.
Part of the reason we have this show is to keep the OGs entertained. And I get the sense that a lot of sharks and whales and dolphins watch this show to keep up and to, really understand what's going on in the HEX market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I comment on that other piece real quick?
Please.
This is an online statistic I heard, and so take that for what you will, but I've heard that like mobile video games, that 10% of their user base actually provides 90% of the microtransactions in the game. And those like whale players, they buy more than all the other 90%.
So I was literally watching a video about Diablo Immortal right before the stream. Like that's like the newest game that came out and that everybody's complaining about because it has like terrible microtransactions. Like streamers and YouTubers are literally competing about like who can spend the most money on it. Like they're literally streaming and putting like a money counter, how much I spent, like $2,000, $10,000, and it gives them in-game advantages, right? So it's kind of terrible. Everybody's complaining about that right now.
Yep.
But while everybody's complaining, most people are not even consuming this type of content, right? Like the people that these companies are targeting are not even watching those videos. They're just like dads just chilling in the toilet playing the game. They don't care about like if they're wasting their money or their time. They just most people aren't gonna watch those things and aren't gonna get influenced by those things. That's why these companies keep on doing it and keep on actually doubling down on it and making it worse and worse. Like with each year, it was becoming more and more like pay to win, more and more money that can be spent. Like it's crazy that a game even allows you to spend $10,000 on it. Like that's
Yeah,
that's
and the
impressive.
loot crates and all that. Yeah, and like even I
Yeah.
remember Richard's old videos when Richard used to be addicted to Clash of Clans. You know,
Did he
imagine
say
Richard.
that?
Yeah, he used to be addicted to Clash of Clans,
Okay.
and like just imagine how much money he could spend on that game. You know what I mean? $10,000, $20,000. He doesn't care because it's pay to win. The more you of the stuff you buy, the more you win, and it gives you an advantage. And yeah, man, it happens all the time. I used to play Eve Online, that internet spaceships game.
Yes.
I spent thousands of dollars in spaceships and items and stuff, and I have nothing to show for it. And that's why I quit right before Hex came out. And I spent all my time just talking about Hex and thinking about Hex and focusing on that. And boy, am I glad I did. Changed my life.
And did you not play anything else ever since?
I play, well, now I just play a little casual, but no more games like that. I play a little Tarkov, but that's about it.
That's nice, yeah. I only heard that Richard played the StarCraft. I didn't hear about Clash of Clans.
Yep.
StarCraft,
And
you used to not
StarCraft,
have anything that you can buy. Now, obviously, they added. They're trying to milk the franchise. So they added a lot of like cosmetics and stuff. But in the early days, there was nothing. I mean, he was just wasting his time, right? Like he spent thousands of hours on it, just trying to be good at it, and he wasn't
Yes.
even like a pro player or anything. He was just good enough to feel like he can become pro, but not actually becoming pro and just wasting his time, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that was like a good old fashioned competitive online game.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's like a battle versus you and the other player. Yeah.
Mm,
People who are finding value from this stream, hit the like and subscribe button or get out. Usually boosts our numbers when the haters drop off and the likes go up a lot. So thanks to everybody for being here. We have 230 people watching live, and typically these days, 6 to 11,000 people watching on the replay. Shout out to you.
mhm.
So Dan, I've got some questions and I'm not really sure how to word them. But so I would still consider you a shark, whether Staker app considers you to be or not. That would be using more of a traditional measure of not just how many shares you have, but how much liquid hex as well, right? Bitcoin, can't be locked up, and it has whales and sharks and dolphins, people who own different, stacks, different decimal places of the percent of the total supply. But so for you, when you're trading and you're bringing the price back down and then buying cheaper and bringing the price back up and all those kinds of things, when you're selling, how do you know that, at what point are you like turning off people who are coming in new, who could attract new people? At what point does that kind of break down, or are you competing with other whales and sharks to like sell at opportune moments? How do you see that dynamic playing out?
Well, I don't use Staker app. I just don't want to, increase my attack surface by having like some financial apps on my phone. So I don't even know. But overall, I mean, I'm trading ethically. First of all, I'm not trading often, right? Like it seems like I'm doing it often. I did like maybe 8 trades, I believe. Like I started counting after like 5, but like maybe 8 trades since like March of last year, something like this. But like 8 massive trades, right? Like trying to like time the bottoms and the tops, the local ones. And so usually when I'm buying or selling, obviously I'm not gonna do it market buys. I mean, I have a lot of time, so I can afford to just. Usually it's a very annoying process. I just sit there for like 5 hours or something doing limit orders, right? So like the price, for example, is like at 35, right? I'm gonna put a limit order at 34.9. And I'm gonna hope it goes back down. If it goes back up 35.2, okay, I'm gonna cancel this limit order. I'm gonna put another one 34.5 or something, right? I'm gonna constantly follow. Usually if the price is like at 30 cents, I'm gonna put a limit order at 31, 32, 29, and 28. I'm gonna just sandwich the thing and hope that it goes through, right? And then if it moves up, I cancel and I do it again. It's a lengthy, annoying process, but I make so much money, it's totally worth it, right? Like just sitting there being annoyed for like 5 hours, if not more. So that's kind of how I do it. I don't know if it's like a real thing. I don't know if there's like a simpler way of doing it. That's kind of how I figured out to do it without impacting, like without making like big candles. Sometimes I will market buy just to create the thing that I'm imagining, right? Like for example, I did like some little market buys around 30 cents to give people the hope that hey, it's the bottom, guys. Like come on. So I believed in it, and I kind of did some market buys to make people feel like it's happening, because like people need a little push. You just push the market, and then they're gonna follow. Kind of like what Godwell did. He just came in, doubled the price, and then people just started believing in HEX all of a sudden, and it continued going up after that. So I'm doing these things usually. I'm usually not market seller.
And I think you mentioned earlier, people got all upset in the chat that you said something about like it's easy to scam people as a shark. Can you
Someone got upset.
define what you meant by that?
What are we talking about? What chat? Who said?
Earlier in this stream, you made a comment.
Oh, what was I saying about what scamming? I mean, I didn't scam nobody. I mean, how can I scam anybody?
I didn't think so.
No, I didn't
think you
scam
meant-
anybody. What I was saying is in the beginning was that I learned how stupid people were and how easy it was to scam people. That's what I said, right? I learned, like when you asked me what did I learn from cryptocurrency in general, how easy it was to scam people. Like people giving away
But
like
you're not
money
scamming
very easily.
people, but you're seeing other people getting scammed.
Yeah, and that's what I learned, right? How easy it is to scam people. But I had offers, right? I had like some friends that were like, "Hey, let's make like a scamming project. It's so easy, etc." I actually rejected those calls. I could have done it, but I was like, "Hey, I'm probably gonna talk about my past in the future, so I don't want to have any dirt, so that I don't have, and also so that nobody can bring it up in the future." So I actually thought about my future even in the early days. I was like, "Nah, gonna do it the ethical way." But some people are doing it, some people around me are doing it, and it is tempting, but I'm not doing it. Like I know some people that do NFTs, like just making. I mean, it used to make like like $8 million in 1 month. They're just creating their own NFT, selling it, just dumping on everybody. It's so easy, like it's crazy. And I mean, as someone that invested in like more than 50 altcoins, like it's crazy how sometimes it's just bumps and dumps, right? I remember like one of the craziest ones. Like that was like one of the only losses that I had, because like in most cases, right, I buy and I sell before it crashes or something, right? I managed to get out without getting scammed, but that was like the only one where I lost some money. It was literally like it was like at the peak of the hype, where every project that was releasing was popping off, right? It was like in summer of 2020, I believe, something like this. Like anything that was releasing was doing well, so I was investing in pre-sales at that point. They were all working all like 2x minimum, etc., on launch. And so there was one thing, and so like the competition was to get as early as possible, right? Like I had some contacts, so I was able to enter at like some private rounds. And there was like, bro, there were so many rounds. It was like seed phase, private B, private A, and then normal private, then public. There were like so many stages, and the earlier you got, the better, usually. And so at one point I found a coin that literally was so early they didn't even have a website yet. I was literally redirected by some friends that found it onto like a Discord group. They didn't even have a Telegram, and it literally was a Discord group with like a few messages saying, "Hey boys, we're gonna launch a new coin. You're so early. We don't even have a website yet. Here's our ETH address. Just send your money here." And I was like, "Hey, I mean, it's the competition right now. Who can get the earlier?" In any project, every project that launches, no matter how stupid it is, it works. So I was like, hey, let's try it. Let's do it. I just sent like $2,000. It wasn't a big deal, right? And yeah, they kept the sale going. I mean, the sale. They literally just gave their address and said, "Hey, you have 10 minutes to send us all your money."
Send us crypto.
And they received like, and they received like $100,000 in 10 minutes. Random ass project that nobody knows about. I received it from like a friend. Discord group with like 5 messages, and they received $100,000 in 10 minutes. That's when I started severely considering making a scam, but I didn't do it eventually. But yeah, it was very easy to make money. Like anyone could have done, right? could have done something like that, right?
Oh
Just
yeah.
open a Discord group and said, hey, send us money, we're gonna launch a project. But if it would have been a legit thing, imagine how early I would have been. That could have been crazy. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens all the time. It's the Wild West, you know.
Those things are what made me understand how easy it is to scam people. That's what I was saying.
There you go. There you go. I also
And I
got
was the one that got scammed, I guess, in that case. All right.
and learned a lesson, right? The only person we do that to now is Richard when we sacrifice. It's the only person I'm sending money to with the expectations of absolutely nothing.
I actually would still take another bet like this, to be fair, because it's only $2,000 and the potential is like 100x or something. So I would still take a bet like this. You never know. Just be a little bit more careful. I like hope that they at least have a website.
Well, I'm sure on PulseChain there will be plenty of opportunities in the future for new interesting opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, right now I feel like I don't need to do this anymore. Like I did it in just to make it. Now that I made it, I just stopped caring too much. I'm just, as I said, I did like 8 trades in the past like year or so. It's enough. So I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not just trading left and right. I mean, I can't anyway because bear market since last year. But I've stopped doing this in general.
I think I think my thinking has evolved on really like the ethics of trading and that sort of thing. I think that as a broadcaster, I'm self-selecting to have a degree of transparency and responsibility to the audience, to where it's not my job to trade, and that practicing what I preach, that's the only way I could do this, because I'm not trying to monetize my audience. I'm just trying to keep myself busy and do something that is hopefully a positive for the crypto space. But for me, just getting to the point where I made it and I had more financial security and I started talking to more people who are who have a greater amount of crypto wealth than I do, it kind of started to help me understand that there are really deep game theory mechanics when it comes to traders that are, let's say, a net negative for the system versus a net positive. And a lot of times I think our society trains us to blame each other for issues that are out of anybody's control, except for the people at the money printer who are as corrupt as can be. But yeah, so for me, it's like, kind of what I'm hearing you say is that you've dabbled in trading other coins, and maybe at the end of the day, you bring some of that value back to the HEX community. And so,
Yeah, I feel like I actually bring value to the community. Yeah, because like I started with like only a few $1,000s, right? I would have been worse for the community if I only bought and staked, right? I would have just bought, staked, done nothing for like years, and that's it. But the fact that I went out of HEX, I sold like, let's say, $10,000 worth of HEX. I went somewhere else, I multiplied it by 10, I came back and I bought back with this higher amount, right? Like I remember a coin called PAMP, PAMP. I did like a 20x on that, right? So I sold HEX. I went there, did a 20x, came back and bought HEX with 20 times more money, right? So overall, I was positive. It was a positive impact on HEX, I believe. And in general, like you're not gonna get rid of traders. Like I feel like getting mad about traders is like the dumbest thing. Like who cares? And just learn how to trade yourself, or just stake long term if you don't want to. It's you're not gonna get anywhere by getting mad about this, because it's never gonna change. So yeah. Even the traders that don't bring any value, well, if they don't bring any value to HEX, they're not bringing value to themselves, right? Because they're not increasing their stack, so they're not buying back more, so they're just losing themselves, and somebody else in HEX is getting their money, right? Because as a trader you can lose money, so somebody else is going to get it, and eventually they will get wiped out, right, if they're not trading properly.
Yeah, people can get wiped out trading, and I think that
and the investors, like the stakers, are the ones that are going to receive the money. So you're happy about it. You're going to get like the fees, etc. Especially on PulseX.
exactly. Yeah, and so I think that I think that people's understanding of the value of traders kind of evolves over time. And for me, I would see a big difference between any other. Let's take the broadcasters that I listen to. I listen to tons of different broadcasters in the HEX ecosystem, and usually on 2x, so I can absorb the stream at full blast. And so for me, it would be really upsetting if I heard somebody broadcasting one thing and then doing the opposite time and time again. That's what we see in the average crypto YouTuber, that they are there to monetize their audience in whatever way they can. People who are trading and losing oftentimes, and then finding clever ways to serve their audience up to the highest bidder. And for me, I think that personally, I would find a moral and ethical problem with that. At the end of the day, I find a lot of value as a broadcaster in encouraging people to, dollar cost average in, dollar cost average out. That's what staking is good for. If everybody tried to buy tops or tried to sell tops and buy bottoms, then we wouldn't get those tops and bottoms, because people are always coming in and out at different entry points and having different emotional roller coasters themselves. So I think that all that kind of comes into play when we kind of evaluate, people who are regular broadcasters versus people who are just kind of, trading on the sidelines. And, what are the pros and cons of having traders in your community? Maybe you guys can help me brainstorm that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have an audience, so I'm not influencing anybody. And even when I'm here, I'm being careful with what I'm saying. Obviously, like, I like what I'm doing, and I feel like it's the best thing to do, right? I'm outperforming even stakers, but obviously, I'm telling everybody to not hope to do something similar, right? I can do this because, like, that's my lifestyle, right? I'm just on the computer playing games and working, right? I'm on my battle station. I'm always here, and I enjoy doing this, and I enjoy living my life like this. But most people, they have families, they have to go out, and you can't trade like me if you have a life, actually. Like, if, like, you can't just place like an order, or like just buy something and then go out for 7 hours and then come back home and hope that it went up. Like, that's not how it works, right? Like, when I buy something, I stay here for like 5 hours looking at the chart in case it goes in the wrong direction. I just sell immediately, right? So it's like I'm losing maximum like 1%, 2%, 5%, and the upside is infinite, I guess. But if it doesn't go in the direction that I predicted, I just sell immediately after. So you need to be here staring at the chart for a few hours. For me, it's not a problem because I'm not staring at the chart. I have a wide monitor, etc. I can play on one side and just have the chart on another. So it's just, a side glance. But yeah, obviously for most people, it's not the right thing to do. Except I would maintain that, selling 50 cents would have probably been like something, that's probably
Pretty
worth it.
obvious
Like,
based
yeah,
on the 10,000
that was so obvious. Like, you could have done it, and you don't need to like stare at the computer or anything. You could have just sold at that point, at least some profits. You don't need to sell everything, and just sell a little bit, and then you could just wait for like 6 months, and now you could have bought back like, I don't know, 10x the amount that you sold. Also, like, the most important thing was the fact that we went up like 50x in a few months. I mean, if you're not taking profits on that, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, like, yeah, absolutely. Even for myself, I'll tell you personally, that would scare the crap out of me to trade 90% of my bag when I think the top's in and when I think the bottom's in, because sometimes it's hard. It's hard to know when the time is right. And even for me, I'd rather just, I have a regular job still. Like, I just work. I'd rather work and like do something for my day than even try to trade. Because if I know myself, I wouldn't succeed. I'd make a mistake. I'd buy or sell at the wrong time.
You can't make that assumption. You never really tried, but I mean, if you work on that, I mean, it's like it's a skill like any other, right? If you work on it, you're just gonna get good at it, and if you really want to get good at it, you're gonna learn and you can get good at it. It's mostly about controlling your own emotions and predicting other people's emotions, and that's really it. So maybe Matty would actually be a great trader because he's a psychologist, right?
So I did it.
If he wanted to.
I did it for a little while. I experimented with it just because I wanted to understand the psychology, and it was tough. But I started to understand what you're talking about when it comes to like training yourself emotionally and that sort of thing. I've described this on different episodes of HEX therapy, but basically the idea was I was only looking basically for red days to buy, and I was that's the first step that I did.
Yeah.
Being somebody who like didn't have any experience trading, and like the experience that I had was bad, where I was getting whipped around by like, different stock options and stuff like that on a very small scale. What I practiced when Hex first came out, I was practicing, instead of buying only on green days, which was I was subconsciously doing that. I wasn't thinking to myself, that here's my strategy and does this make sense? But so I switched it up and I practiced forcing myself to basically buy on red days and sell on green days. And that was the simple rule that I kept with. And it was like, I don't know, it was like 10% of my bag or something that I was doing that with, but it was enough for me to feel the emotions and to realize how bad it felt to sell when something goes up and how also bad it felt to buy when something went down. And so that was the start of my training. It turned out well to where I made a nice little amount of money in like 2-3 months of making limited trades, only making a handful of trades. And that's when I decided to quit while I was ahead.
Yeah, and you see, it's about the psychology. It's like it actually kind of makes you smarter. But yeah, like it's interesting how your way of seeing things changes. Like for me, it's natural now, but like when I see red days, I'm happy about it. I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna be able to buy like some cheap coins, right? So when I see red days, I'm happy, and when I'm seeing green days, I'm unhappy because I'm like, fuck, it's going up. I'll need to sell soon. When do I sell? It's crazy. Like I'm making money, but I'm not considering that I'm making money because I haven't made money until I sold, right? So it's like I'm stressed out when the price is going up. For most people, it's the opposite, right? Like they're happy when it's going up and they're mad when it's going down. For me, it's literally the opposite, right? It's going down, I'm happy, okay, I'm going to get the opportunity to buy the dip. When it's going up, I'm constantly stressed out. Like even now, I'm stressed out, right? Like I could already sell and get like a huge profit, right? But constantly stressed out since yesterday. Like, man, when do it? Like, what can happen? Why is Bitcoin going down? Why is the stock market, etc. It's yeah, but it's important also to stick to your plan, because sometimes the price can revisit the levels at which you bought, and it's important to stick to it. Like when I sold at like 50 cent, I sold on the first time, right? And then it went back there a second time. It did like a double top, and I remember I panicked at the time. I was like, hey, man, it's going back up, it's going back up. But I stayed true to my strategy, and it just did a double top, and then it kept going down. So yeah. It's about psychology. And I feel like even investors, like even long-term stakers, etc., could benefit from having some elements of that psychology. You're just gonna feel happier about when the price go down. And I see a lot of hexagons that are also happy when the prices go down by saying like, hey, like all these people emergency end staking or just increasing our interest, right? So they're happy when they see people emergency end staking. Hex really has like one of the best communities for that. They really understand what's happening. They're happy like no matter what.
I agree. And another way to play it is to just dollar cost average in heavier when the price dips. And that's another way to kind of hedge the downside volatility. And that worked out well for me as well. When I quit trying to sell tops and buy bottoms, I realized that on a long enough time frame, my risk was increasing because, with whatever percent of my bag that I'm playing with like that I'm trading, then I could get it right 10 times in a row. And if I keep leaving all the money on the table, the 11th time it could all disappear, right? And so that's another piece that made me kind of back off and to take this more long-term approach. And thanks to a bunch of airdrops that have happened, it's worked out in my favor, to the sense that I didn't have to do the emotional roller coaster that that could have fried my relationships or my ability to stream, or that kind of stuff.
But you can't lose everything on like one trade. Like I'm not talking about leverage trading, right? Like I'm not doing leverage at all. I'm doing like normal trades. So even if you succeeded 10 times and you failed on the 11th, it just depends on when you get out. As I said, like the fact that I can look at the chart all day, it allows me to just get out with minimal losses, right? If it goes in the wrong direction, I immediately sell, because usually I'm doing my trades at like very specific points where like a big breakout is supposed to happen, right? So it's either the breakout happens and we see a big pump like 10% or something, and if it doesn't happen, I just sell back and I have like 2% losses, 5% losses. So it's never, you're never losing everything if you're not doing leverage. Leverage is the worst thing. I actually did leverage, and you may think that, you might have made more money. No, I actually lost on leverage. Like I completely failed my little leverage journey. I tried like the 100x ones on Binance and stuff. I tried the 30x ones, and like leverage somehow makes it way worse. Like it's a lot easier to trade normally, because in some cases, like even if you don't sell immediately, if it goes in the wrong direction, you can just wait and eventually it's gonna go back up, right? With leverage, if it goes down, you're liquidated. And so it happened to me all the time, right? Like I would open a certain trade with leverage and I would bet on a certain direction. It would just wick down, cancel me out, and then go back up into the direction that I predicted it's gonna go. So that's why leverage, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, even the people that can stay at home and then just stay on the computer. Even those people, I wouldn't recommend that, especially when you can make like you can make enough gains by just doing normal trading. Yeah,
I guess like Johnny Chaos has a pretty good story of how he was buying HEX at 1 sat and then selling it for 2, and he got left behind. I think that's one case where I guess it's not really like losing, because he's still doubling his bag a few times before he gets left behind. But that's pretty far to be left behind, don't you think?
I mean, again, like to be left behind, like that means that he didn't change his mind after multiple days, right? Like the only time that you can actually be left behind is if you're stubborn, right? So again, emotions, like you really believe in the direction that you believe it's supposed to go in, and it doesn't, and it progressively goes back up, and you're not buying back. Either that, or if Godwell just shows up and doubles the price in one candle. Yeah, in that price, you can, but that only happened one time. So I never got impacted by anything like this. And let's be honest, it happens most often in the other direction. So yeah.
Now, have you invested in Pulse and PulseX?
Yes, mostly in PulseX. I'm more interested in PulseX.
Explain.
I mean, it's all the same talking points that everybody knows about. The burn, the buy and burn. I feel like that's literally the main reason. I don't know. I don't have thoughts coming into my mind right now, but just I looked at all the major points, and then the major points of PulseX seemed to be more interesting. I remember looking at like comparing it to Uniswap's growth, comparing it to like Pancake, comparing it to other exchanges, and they just provided better gains from what I remember.
Did you anticipate when the PulseChain when the PulseChain sacrifice was occurring, did you anticipate that there would be another sacrifice for PulseX, or did you feel like you were passing on PulseChain independently of knowing that PulseX would come out with a sacrifice?
Yeah, I didn't know about another sacrifice. I had no idea. But by the time that PulseX was announced, HEX got time to go a little bit higher, and because I got to sell at 0.5, I had more money, so I could more easily put more into PulseX. When PulseChain launched, HEX was maximum at 18 cents. So yeah.
You obviously don't have to answer this next question, but I'm just kind of curious on a broad strokes type of thing. What scale were you investing in PulseX? Was it like $2,000, like you mentioned for coins that are random, or was it more similar to like the amount that you put into HEX initially, or was it like a giant position
figures.
so you can be like a shark in that as well? Okay.
6 figures in both. No, I went in heavily. I feel like you should. I mean, if you're looking at Richard's track history, you're looking at HEX. I mean, why wouldn't you go heavily into something like this? It just makes sense, yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
if you just compare PulseChain's a fork of Ethereum, so just by that token, if you look at Ethereum and its history, everybody who pre-purchased that and got it, they did pretty well. So why not? Maybe the same will happen here.
Yeah, and I mean, as someone that participated in a lot of pre-sales, even ICOs and stuff, like almost everything worked. Like literally all of them work, no matter how bad the project is, no matter how bad the devs are, it just always works. Like the only thing that could make it not work is if like some big bug happens or something crazy. But that's why it's been delayed so often, because Richard is working on it and perfecting it and making sure that no big issue happens with it. So it gives me even more confidence.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was very happy with Richard's last stream, where he even answered my question where I asked him. Well, actually, he didn't really know the answer to the question I asked him. I asked him if we're going to do another test net after all the upgrades to the PulseChain are ready. He said he wasn't sure, but probably I would assume we're going to test out the new code once it's improved, which will make it even faster and better, which is awesome for me because then I'll have to buy less hardware and less servers. Hopefully, hopefully the crap I already bought will last longer, and it'll just be more efficient. So that's pretty exciting. But well, people I see people asking in the chats like but we're just hypothesizing here. We don't know what's gonna when or what's gonna happen at this point now. Now it's anybody's guess. It's a question mark in my mind.
Oh yeah, I have some guesses actually about that. That's also one of the reasons why I bought now is because, like, number one of my guesses would be that it launches before August, because Richard has been saying so often that he hopes to beat ETH 2.0 to market, that it would just look very bad for him and for the project as a whole if it doesn't launch before ETH 2.0. And I heard that ETH 2.0 was supposed to launch in August. So
I heard it got
perhaps in
delayed
July.
today. Ethereum got delayed again today. Yeah.
To which one?
Which is good. The update for
like which month it got delayed to?
Well, they didn't even say. They didn't
Because
like
the last time I checked, like they said August. So I feel like if that's still the case, if it's still August, maybe they delayed from beginning of August to late August. Richard should do his best to launch at that time. So my guess would be that it would happen in July, right? And that would give like a big boost to the already slightly pumping price. Another thing is that I believe HEX is not going to go to like minus 95%. Same reason Richard has been bragging so much over the years about how HEX never went, down 95% since it had a market, comparing it to like Ethereum, which went down 95%, comparing it to Amazon, which went down to minus 95%. And I feel like if he allows it to go down to minus 95%, he's just going to lose that bragging right, and that's a very cool bragging right to have, especially like in like 5 years and 10 years. That's something he can repeat all the time, and that's something that is worth bragging about if it's still the case, right? And so minus 95%, it is 0.0025 cents for HEX. So that's one of the reasons also why I bought it at 3 cents, because I feel like we're not gonna reach 25. It would negate that bragging right, and I don't think, like, first of all, I don't think the market itself is gonna allow the price to go that low, because just people like me that are buying before that price hits. There's a lot of people waiting to buy. And even if the market allows it to go that low, probably Richard is gonna step in and just not allow it to go that low. I feel like it's really easy for him to not allow it to happen. He just drops like a little $1 million. It can go up like 10%, 20% just with $1 million. Like it's really not hard for him. He's supposed to be a billionaire, like even outside of HEX. Like, come on, just $1 million and you're keeping the bragging rights. The HEX never went down 95% forever, right? You can brag about it all the time. Say how it's better than Ethereum in terms of price, right? So I feel like it's worth doing it.
That's cheaper than the Hex Diamond.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's cheap to do, it's easy to do, and again, like there's so many people waiting on the sidelines. And how do I know that? I don't even need to have any statistics. I know that I'm like this, so I know there's a bunch of traders that are like me, right? It's just that they probably didn't, buy yet, but a lot of people have the same mindset as me, and I just know it because like that's how I do most of my trades. I imagine what other traders will do. And so a lot of people very probably just sitting on the sidelines. Like most people, when they go into Hex, they don't go back. Like even me, right? I went into like 50 more plus coins. Hex, I'm not going out of it, right? Like I went into those coins, did a little flip, and then left them completely. Left the community. Hex, you usually don't leave it. So all those people that helped us go to 0.5 cents, right, to 50 cents, these people, most of them are probably still here, right? All these people like that sold and brought us back here, they're probably still here with their capital and they can bring us back to 50 cents. Maybe a little bit less because they might have lost or something, but they're still here. And they're just watching and waiting for the right time to buy. And this is why like all it takes is just, if Richard wants it, right, he can just come in, start buying a little bit, make, start the pump, and then the market will just continue the pump on its own. You just take $1 million, you divide it into 5 times 200,000, you buy every day 200,000, and it gives it a natural look as if the price is going up on its own. People start FOMOing in and it just goes. And I feel like it's not only in the interest of Richard, but in the interest of all the other whales. Like Godwell, he has a massive stack that he needs to protect. So he better, start buying if he wants to protect his stack.
Like the counterpoints I would make to that, like just to balance out the conversation, not to say that I don't think PulseChain is going to launch soon, or I mean, I really don't know when it's going to launch. So one person said here in the chat, so I guess first I'll back you up on like that it could launch soon, and then we'll explore the case that maybe it'll be quite some time. But somebody here says that the SAC balances were updated today. They think launch is imminent. We've seen the SAC balances get updated a lot, but we know that. So I'm not sure that's really a good indicator, but it could be. Somebody on Twitter pointed out that Richard changed his.
Yeah, I saw that.
Changed the description. I can bring it up on. Well, if I bring it up, then our overlay is going to get messed up. But in Richard's description on Twitter, the last thing that it says is "free coins soon!" ! Now, the reason why I think that is probably, could be a red herring or something, is that we know that Richard doesn't want people to know when it's coming out. So if he's saying free coins soon, then that could be something to throw off people like Dahn here, who are trading the price up and down on speculation. But then again, so far your track record sounds pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, if I traded around that, I wouldn't have bought yet, right? Like I'm not trading around the PulseChain announcement. This is like a plus, right? If you buy now, and even if the price goes back down, you know that the PulseChain announcement is probably coming soon, so it's still gonna come back up because of it. That's what I'm
saying. It sounded like Richard was still somewhat bearish on Bitcoin on his last stream, because he pointed out that the GBTC discount was at the highest level it's ever been. It was up to like 30% or something. And so that's another thing for people to keep an eye on, is what that's doing, of course, because it stops institutional buyers, maybe some of whom would have been able to buy spot. It stops them from buying it spot and causes the price to not be able to pump as much. We've talked about that on quanking a lot in the past. That's a pretty good indicator to be able to call a top or a bottom is the GBTC premium or discount. And then I think another thing to keep in mind is that originally people had, and I think I heard John Wick say this in a recent interview that he did that was really outstanding. He was pointing out that Ethereum, when they go to 2.0, it's not going to decrease the cost of fees. And so that's one reason why we may not see PulseChain try to compete for the launch date. That maybe Richard updated his worldview and decided that, launching before ETH 2.0 isn't as important as whatever else we're waiting for in terms of bugs being fixed, the improvements being made, possibly timing the market, in the right way. I know that Richard has given his kind of like indications both ways, that he said he wasn't going to try to time the market with the PulseChain launch. But he also said that he never gets launch times correct. And it kind of seems like he doesn't want traders to benefit. He kind of wants to wash out all the traders who are coming in from other markets and trying to flip HEX. All of those things, eliminating traders from the mix, getting them wrecked, and launching at the bottom of the bear market, that creates more pumpamentals that will benefit everybody in the end. And so at the end of the day, I think that I would predict, based on the game theory of how Richard has acted in the past and the fact that he doesn't need to like dump his own coins to pay for his lifestyle or anything, unlike pretty much every other founder in the world, that kind of makes me rest easy at night, not knowing when PulseChain will launch and not really worrying about it, because it's something that he seems to have gotten right in the past, and I predict he'll continue to get it right.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like the PulseChain launch really doesn't matter. Like the only reason why I care about it is because I care about the HEX price, right? Like I care about like short term and medium term, benefits on HEX, and so that's why I care about it. But technically, like I don't care about the money that I invest. I mean, I care about it, but I'm not gonna worry about the money that I invest in it. I'm obviously not one of those like thinking, screaming, "Oh, scam! It's been more than a year or something." I could wait like another year if needed. The only reason why I'm worried a little bit is because if it gets delayed and delayed, I mean, we saw like most of the dumpage that we saw on HEX was because PulseChain was delayed, right? So we literally saw like the beginning of this big like dip that we had in the past like weeks because of PulseChain. So we can't deny the influence that launch date has on the price. I feel like if he comes out and he says, "Hey, PulseChain is actually launching in 2024," HEX might reach even below 1 cent, right? So again, it's all about emotion. It's all about how people are gonna react. And same thing with like ETH 2.0. Like yes, maybe it won't ease off the fees. Like it's not gonna better the fees, but again, it's about what people think, right? If HEX launches, if Pulse launches after, it feels kind of defeatist, if that's a word. Like it feels like you tried but you failed and they beat you to market. That's how it's gonna feel. That's how people are gonna perceive it, and also people will probably not wanna switch to another chain. Like they already went to on the ETH 2.0, they already settled there, and now they have to change to another chain. It's probably not gonna be something that's gonna be convenient for a lot of people. Like I remember when BAC launched and it was popping off, it was like crazy. Everybody was talking about it. I was so lazy. I didn't want to just learn this new chain. I didn't want to discover this whole new chain. That's where Pulse is actually better because it's just a copy state of the state of Ethereum, right? So it's easier for people to adapt to it, but it's still inconvenient if 2.0 launches before and people get used to that and then having to switch to another chain.
Interesting.
But both ways are fine actually. Like maybe like another good scenario would be like in case if Pulse launches after ETH 2.0. A good case scenario would be if ETH 2.0 launches, all the people hope that it's gonna be like it's gonna reduce the fees and it's gonna address the problems that they actually have. it's not going to address the problems that the people actually have. People are going to get mad at it. People are going to start looking for another solution, and that's when PulseChain launches, like a month or so after ETH 2.0. That would be a positive scenario.
It's a good point too. Yeah, it could work out in our favor even if we don't beat ETH 2.0 to market, because our feature set looks way better than theirs does.
Yeah.
Our game theory looks better.
Yeah. And also the free airdrop that everybody's going to receive, like everybody's going to hear about it. Maybe if it launches towards the end of the year, it can even probably coincide with the Netflix show. So it, may attract new people. It may attract even more hype for Pulse. We can imagine like multiple positive scenarios. But the easiest one, the simplest one, would be if we just beat them to market. If it just launches in July and everything's great.
Yeah, the highest of stakes. We're not sure when that'll come out, but the mediumest of stakes just came out on Hexray Vision's channel. It's a show about his family vacation. The mediumest of stakes. I thought that was kind of funny. The other thing that's happening in July that I'm getting the word out about is that I'm hosting an online Pulse conference to mark the 1-year anniversary of the PulseChain sacrifice. And this online conference will be July 14th through 16th. And Richard has agreed to speak. I put out the tweet today. And so that's pretty exciting. I always look forward to anytime I hear him speak on any channel. It's pretty exciting to me. If you want to help get the word out about this, everybody, I'm going to drop it in the chat here, and people can like and retweet it. Always helps to get the word out to pump our bags.
Another little positive that I just thought about is that like Richard didn't stream for like a long time, like a very long time, right? And now recently he came out and he made a live stream. So it might indicate something, like the recent change in the bio on Twitter. The recent, the fact that he started live streaming again. The fact that he's starting to tweet more and more on Twitter, I feel like, it might indicate something. The fact that he twerked on Twitter, I don't think he's gonna be twerking if everything's going badly in the development, right? He's probably very happy. So those are little elements that might suggest that maybe
he does eat gold wrapped chocolate though, and say cheers to the bear market.
Yeah.
Caviar.
Yeah, caviar and gold wrapped chocolate. Is that what we had today at lunch?
Yeah.
And then he went shopping. So yeah.
Like the only bad scenario really is if like Bitcoin just keeps on going down, doesn't even have a bounce, just plows through 20K and goes all the way to 13K, and ETH decides to follow it and HEX decides to follow it. In that case, yeah, we could see like short term, we could see like HEX at 1 cent or something. That would be like worst case scenario. But it's something to take into account, something to consider and be prepared for. At least after that, that it's over. Like if Bitcoin continues, if Bitcoin continues going down under 13K, then it's just that's just over.
And by over, do you mean taking out another mortgage on my house and buy as many coins as I can?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of worried about this whole recession thing. I'm worried how it's going to impact the crypto market. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of. Do I talk about this? This is kind of negative, but I feel like it's kind of naive, I guess, to expect the crypto market to just continually have bear markets and bull runs and just constantly make people rich every 4 years. I mean, it happened like 4 times on Bitcoin, but who says that it's just going to continue doing this forever? Who says that we're going to have another bull market? Like, what is this? Like some sort of easy way of getting rich? Like every 4 years, anyone that knows about it can get rich and just invest at the bottom and just ride it all the way up. It seems very easy, and usually the more people know about something that's easy, the less it actually works. It's like all the little businesses, all the little tricks. Usually they work when few people know about it. When everybody knows about it, it starts working less. And we've been seeing this with Bitcoin, right? Like diminishing returns. What if it goes back to 13K and it stays there? Like it just ranges. from 13K to 16K, and it ranges at those levels for like a year or two. That's also something to take into account.
I mean, I heard an analysis. It was actually Dominic Frisby, who was on Robert Breedlove's channel in the past day, just pointing out that in the macro situation, it is possible that the Fed is looking at Bitcoin and looking at the crypto market as a frothy area that they're trying to pull back in order to control inflation. And I know that like there's so many layers to this onion that like, it's, you're not going to hear all of it just in one take. There's multiple takes that you're going to have to layer on top of each other that are somewhat contradictory. But, my point is that, that like you say, if there's easy money to be had, like normally there has to be a correction that fixes that to some extent. And all of the gains that Bitcoin has had, they've all occurred within this macro bull run that's the longest bull run in history for the US stock market. And, so I think it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. It comes back to people buying and selling, but whether people have, money to speculate on things really does depend kind of on the money printing and how the economy is going. I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the proposition of crypto, like, it still stands up that people get pissed off by money printing, by bailouts. That's why Satoshi created Bitcoin, supposedly, chancellor on the brink of another bailout. Daily News article that was posted in the first Genesis block. Like there was a link to this news article that was talking about banks, doing further bailouts because of the housing crisis that was caused by the banks in the first place. And, so there's, Bitcoiners talk about this, but, we're really the evolved group of Bitcoiners anyway. And so, we can steal some of their talking points. At the end of the day, the more that a manipulated market gets beat down, or the more that a free market gets manipulated, the more that it's going to like try to route around that. And so I think even if, crypto does crash, you're just going to accumulate more strong hands in the end. It's going to become more resistant in some ways, right? Otherwise, maybe not so much. Like Celsius screwing up, like just gave 1.2 or 1.3 million users a really bad experience in crypto. But still, that's a really small percentage of the total 150 million crypto wallets in the world or whatever it is, right? And so all of these things matter. But at the end of the day, I think even in the most bearish case where I could see Bitcoin going to, 12K, 11K, where I could see, personally, I might buy some Ethereum at $700, but anything over that makes me kind of allergic. I think that's kind of an interesting term that Richard used to use in the early days. Is like, will people get allergic to HEX at higher prices? I would argue it could be the opposite that's been happening, that like people get allergic almost at lower prices, at least the average user does. And then they want to wait until it starts to pump again before they buy. And that's an interesting dynamic. I see David reacting.
Yeah, happens in all markets, sadly. Yeah, that's part of where some of the profit comes from, is people buying the top and then they sell the bottom, they panic, and then it goes back up and they buy again and they sell the bottom again. It happens. But I feel like after you've been through a full cycle, you should kind of understand like the roller coaster, right? The roller coaster. Now Dan was saying earlier, will the roller coaster ever break down eventually? Or maybe it can't go as high in the future. That's true. And with Bitcoin especially, the more populated it becomes, the more well-known it becomes, you are going to get diminishing returns and less volatility in time. Yeah. But
why?
Well, for Bitcoin specifically, in my opinion, it's because, and I don't know how much this is, like how many institutions are really investing. I don't know like what the rate really is, but in my opinion, the more liquidity there is, kind of like gold, like the more it's available in billions and billions of dollars, and the higher the price of Bitcoin's worth and the market cap, like it'll have less volatility because big buys and big sells won't move the price as much. You know, it'll take even more money to make it pump and dump. So eventually, if it gets to a certain point, it's just, unless you have a lot of Bitcoin, unless you're Satoshi and you just walk up and you're like, market sell 10%, boom, like, you know, that in the future that will probably happen less. But I'm just speculating.
I feel like it's about the hype. It's just if people stop, caring about Bitcoin, then it's just not gonna work anymore. That's really that's how most coins work. That's why most coins, they only have like one pump or maximum two usually, and then they never recover because people just lose interest. So if people start losing interest in Bitcoin, it can just follow the same path as most of these altcoins that never recover. Like it's literally all about interest and people buying. If there's no interest, well, there's not gonna be people buying, and it's just gonna become a sort of stable coin or just a coin that is ranging without bringing too much profits for the investors. Now the thing is, HEX doesn't have to follow Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin can do its own thing. Bitcoin can die on its own. But HEX, it's such a great product. Like it wouldn't make sense for it not to have like a better run, right, than Bitcoin. Like at least the same run that Bitcoin had, and it should have an even better one. So that's why I hope for, but also have to again like manage expectations and consider the negative scenarios, which would be that HEX never gets recognized because like we know that it's like a better product, etc. But we have common sense. Most people don't seem to have common sense. So if they continue not having common sense and if they continue not accepting HEX, well, it might not work out. I mean, there's artists out there that are more talented than the famous ones, but despite being talented, they never make it to famousness. So HEX might be the same thing, but the fact that we have such a smart founder that understands all of these things, understands marketing, understands how to bring in new people, makes me bet on the positive side, right? Like he knows all of this, he understands like all of those things, also that the time sharing, like he's not out here like promoting any indicators or anything like that. He's saying it straight up, like we just need more people equals more buys equals better price. I mean, it's that easy, right? And he's working literally on that. He's been working on that for months. He's been marketing, getting new people in. Like most founders, they don't understand this. Like again, I invested in many coins, and one of the main things that you're looking at when you're investing is the team behind it. And it's like most founders, they just don't have common sense. They don't understand this stuff. They're out here like talking about how they're gonna revolutionize the world and create like this thing and just change the way things work. And they're just so focused on the technicalities instead of being focused on what actually matters, which is the price and how do you make the price rise by bringing in new people. Richard really understands all of this, very smart guy, and he's doing the best thing that he could be doing right now. A lot of people are criticizing him, like telling him to go dev something. Like he's not the best at developing something. He has developers for that. So let the developers do their job and let Richard do what he's best at doing at, which is having his crazy personality and attracting new people. He's literally doing the best thing that you could want from a founder right now.
I'd agree with that.
Especially, as he said, like during the bear market, they having your socials go up, and that's crazy. Like most people on YouTube, like all the YouTubers are complaining about the fact that they're getting less views, like Crypto, The Moon, etc. They have like 2 or 3 times less views than they had during the bull run. Richard is literally getting more likes than like a year before, 6 months before. He's getting more likes, more followers. He's literally attracting new people during the bear market. Like we should be celebrating this more.
Well said.
Yeah. Those social metrics, they really matter too, because you could see everybody else is kowtowing, like they're bending over backwards to try to get more viewers. They're, taking bribes from other, from more and more coins. Whereas for some of us here in the HEX community, we're really like focusing on the core of what we believe in. And I even heard somebody criticize Hex that like the streamers don't talk about other coins. LOL. Like,
that's a feature, not a bug.
correct.
Although we do talk, I mean, on here we talk about other coins sometimes.
Sure,
So, I'd say that's not a fair assessment of most channels.
But definitely like having people staked for so long really helps to keep you promoting the same thing and to keep the growth really organic. I think that other founders, they would have paid an exchange to list Hex. They would have paid an advertising agency to advertise Hex. They would have given money to Google and Facebook and every other place that would take their money to try to pump up their coin in a way that's not organic, in a way that would bring in users who might not be as concentrated, might not be as long-term thinking. I mean, we got to remember, even though there's only 95,000 stakers, like it's still pretty incredible that the Hex audit revealed that 75% of the Hex coins out there are staked, and Dan the Shark controls the other 25%. So, oh wait, that last part was a joke.
Yeah.
In terms of like a non-OA controlled coins, and it seems like the OA has never sold. Also with that in mind, like personally, I am now more interested in like doing my own chain analysis. And so I hope like I'll be able to share those skills with everybody, maybe on a special episode, or maybe do some featured segments where I can teach the audience here how to do more chain analysis. Because one of the things that David caught today was that, I didn't even have a chance to really look into it, but there's a loved member of the Hex community who had, brought attention to something that some YouTuber maybe outside of our community had done a chain analysis and was saying that Celsius had sacrificed for PulseX, and David was able to point out that that wasn't the case. Can you summarize that?
Yeah, by all means. Yeah, I saw the same tweet. It's, Celsius sacks for PulseChain. There's a video. I'm like, what? This is, go to minute 22 and watch this. So I go to it, I watch it, and I was clearly the guy making the video. He doesn't know how to read Etherscan, and what he's showing is this Celsius wallet that received like a whole like $40 million of Celsius tokens from the Celsius Reserve Treasury, and it's just sitting there in a wallet. And then if you look at the transactions tab, there's a spammer wallet that has it's like pulsechain.com.eth. Somebody out there bought that ENS name, and they were using that wallet to spam tons of people. Vitalik, I mean, everybody they can get their hands on. And then obviously the Celsius wallet, because it's public. So this guy in this YouTube video, he's like, I don't know what the hell PulseX is, but Celsius sent in a bunch of coins to it. It's like, no, bro, no, you're not reading it right. Like that's just a spammer trying to get Celsius's attention. It's got nothing to do with their coins. They didn't sacrifice anything. So yeah, I saw that, and that was quick and easy. So that guy in that video, man, that was pretty poor research on that guy's part. Like, not only did they not sacrifice, and then he couldn't even read the PulseX website. He didn't even know what he was looking at. So it was pretty frustrating. So I was happy to shout that out as false.
And I mean, too, I think that so that's a good example of chain analysis gone wrong. And then I think there was a dispute in the Hex community where Gunther had accused Steph of dumping on people's heads and then, posting the opposite on social media, and provided a chain analysis that Steph then was able to say that it was false, that it was misrepresenting, that he didn't actually control the wallets that Gunther was attributing to him. And so, again, this is something where I don't know who's right and wrong. I like both members of the community. I hope that they stick around and continue to provide a lot of value. But at the end of the day, the people who are consuming this, gossip about Chainalysis, I want to help educate those people so that they can look into it themselves, and then we can keep everybody, accountable to the extent that is, different people will choose in the community. It's not like something that one person has control over. But at the end of the day, I think, it would be something where it would damage your social reputation if you were saying one thing and doing the opposite at everybody else's expense. And that's so it's a pretty serious accusation. And I think that at the end of the day, the more people who understand Chainalysis, then we'll know, like, which member of the community are people supposed to be, like, I guess, putting more credit towards or like paying attention to more.
Yeah, because the proof's in the pudding. Etherscan.io does not lie, right? Like, the blockchain is the blockchain. Buys and sells or buys and sells. It's all public info. Now, obviously tagging that to a person and confirming it's their identity, that's like almost impossible unless they buy ENS addresses or other items that may identify them. But that's about it, though. Otherwise it's pretty. So yeah, but it's funny how I think that'd be great if you did a crash course on Etherscan or just some examples of transactions and show people how to read them. I think everybody who's involved in crypto should have a little exposure to it.
There was a FUD article that came out on HEX that must have been, and I haven't checked with him, but like that, it's what I'm assuming Gunther was like talking about why he didn't want to make the OA audit public, was because he said it could be used against the community. And I'm just guessing here, making an educated guess, that that's what he could have been talking about, was this FUD article that I don't know how long it came out ago, or how long ago it came out. It might have been a couple weeks, or it might have been a couple months, but at the end of the day, I plan to like do a separate video where I just kind of go through point by point, because it's like so comprehensive that it almost seems legitimate. But at the end of the day, what we know about game theory, what we know about all these cryptos, is if you get one assumption backwards, then you got the whole math problem wrong. And so I think, as somebody who, I've studied HEX for probably multiple thousands of hours, in the low thousands of hours, I think that I could probably do a good job of like reviewing the FUD article and like pointing out where it's wrong, and some things that are just kind of like, these are things that are known and it's not scary. But when it's presented by somebody who's drawing all these conclusions, painting everything in a negative light, they obviously have an agenda. There's lots of people who don't want HEX to succeed. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why we all are out here representing, is because we believe in it. We're not scared. We're not blinding ourselves to the FUD. We, because we don't want to live in an echo chamber, because we want to understand and learn. And for me, it's like more important than just talking my bag. It's like, I want to be intellectually sound, and I want to be intellectually honest. And so if I found something that was wrong with HEX, like, I might bring it up and try to understand it better. An example would be when I got my panties in a bunch about, whenever people were starting to look into having tradable stakes. And I got to speak with all the brilliant people in the HEX community. And like, I heard both sides of the story because I was open to hearing both sides. And I gave my dissent, even though it was costly from a social perspective. But I thought that it was important for somebody to represent the side of like, maybe this isn't good. Maybe we don't need to build everything we can think of on top of this thing that works pretty damn well already. And at the end of the day, I updated my worldview to understand that tradable stakes are somewhat similar to liquid HEX, in the sense that the majority of the gains come from adoption, come from USD appreciation, come from long-term holding. And so it doesn't matter if a little bit of the APY is getting awarded to people who can essentially wreck themselves. For me, the number one, the number one gain that I'm getting is stopping the counterparty risk with myself, because I can tell you that I would not have held on to so much HEX for this long if I hadn't created a ladder that was staked yearly. I would have gotten up to $100,000 or $1 million, and I probably would have cashed out like half at that point if I could have even held on to that point. And so the fact that, I was able to decrease the counterparty risk with my future self by, time locking my HEX and then having these penalties that protect me, and I'm doing that by my own choosing, that is a huge use case to me. And that's part of the whole idea of, I think, the direction I've taken to HEX therapy is like, pay your future self and decrease your own counterparty risk for the dips and the rips.
Yeah. Not selling the first million is hard. Like I remember the first time I reached the million mark, I actually considered just selling everything, but I didn't. Right, I decided to be a strong hand. But then the price started going down, and I started seeing my balance going down 900k, 800k, 700k, 600k. That's when I panicked. I was like, oh no, that's the worst thing. Becoming a millionaire and just going back. But I stayed true to my plan and I didn't sell. That's when we had like I don't remember, but we had like a big dip, and then after that we continued going up, and so eventually it became more. But yeah, it is indeed scary to reach high amounts and not cash them out. Like the trick to keep your head cool is just to consider that it's a small amount, right? Like $1 million, consider that it's $1,000. Like that's what you should be doing, especially as a trader, even as an investor. You should continue considering it as if it was $1,000. Because if you manage to transform like 1,000 into $1 million, that means that you've been doing the right moves. So continue doing the right moves. Don't start allowing this to get into your head and start making the wrong decisions because you're worried or something.
Dan, what would it take for you to start staking more of your bag?
Either me starting to get only bad trades. If I start getting very bad at it, then I'm gonna probably consider doing that. This is assured profits, assured on average 40% a year. Most people are extremely happy about this. This is more than most things can offer in the real world. It's just that I believe in myself and my track record is nice, and so I'm continuing to trade because it's working out way better than if I was staking. And also it gives me the peace of mind of knowing that I hold my own assets and I can just do whatever I want whenever I want with them, in case like an emergency happens or if I just want to sell a top or something. So peace of mind, plus I feel like I'm still doing well. If I start doing badly, probably I will stake more.
Fair enough. And do you hold any stable coins like in the mix ever?
I mean, those are the only two things that I've been holding in the past months. Yeah, it's only been like HEX or USDC. Usually it's one or the other, because usually, I mean, I'm a degenerate gambler. Like I'm either all in HEX or all in on USDC, because it's like if I believe that HEX is gonna go up, then why not just go all into it? Because usually, if I believe it's gonna go up, I did my research about it, right? I did like multiple days or something of research. So if I believe it's gonna go up, why not just put everything in it? And if I'm wrong, I'll just sell before it goes down, and that's it, right? And if I believe that it's gonna go down, then just sell everything, go in USD. I mean, for me, it's like this. Obviously, I'm keeping, obviously, like I have an apartment here that I bought. This is my security. I'm planning to probably buy a second apartment for full security so that I have a rental income coming in from the second apartment. So, complete peace of mind, complete financial security. And obviously, I have like some money on the bank account again for security. Aside from that, I'm just going all in usually.
Right on.
Plus, there's also like the PulseX sacrifice, the PulseChain sacrifice. Those are also big amounts that are kind of separate in a way. So technically, I have like way less than 90% that I'm trading with. It's probably like
Okay.
70.
Okay. And let me see. So what was the next thing? David, do you have a question?
No, I just gotta give a shout out to Dan there. That's hardcore, man. You are you're a hardcore dude. That's pretty wild. I like that.
And move to Dubai, guys. Move to Dubai. Best place to be. Except if you're American, I guess you can't because of the taxes. But at least Puerto Rico, and at the best Dubai. That's literally the best place to be in.
So in what ways have you updated your lifestyle, and in what ways are you still like not balling out completely? Like,
Me,
you know,
I'm actually not.
we've seen some Hexicans like, you know, go out spending thousands of dollars on a bottle of alcohol. We've seen, you know, people buying Lambos and DeLoreans and shit like that. You know, maybe the DeLorean has a higher ROI than the Lambo.
The DeLorean's an investment, right? It'll be worth more later.
It's marketing, yeah. So, but you know, there's, you know, some people their goal is to cash out just into the real estate market, which, you know, could be good or bad. But at the end of the day, are there certain things that you spend more money on now that you're a multimillionaire in crypto? And are there some things that you still try to save on?
Food. I feel like that was always the goal from like 16 years old, become rich so that I can afford to eat whatever I want and as many of it as I want. That's the real goal right here. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, food. That's the only thing I started spending more on. Obviously, like my gaming setup is incredible. 5K PC, like $500 keyboard, like 38-inch ultra wide monitor, Alienware PS5, you know, 2K 120 FPS TV, right above my PC. Like yeah, just these types of tech things. Aside from that, I don't have a car. I actually made sure to pick an apartment in a place where I won't need a car because I feel like it's just one more thing to worry about. That's a thing that a lot of people don't think about, but like happiness comes from, you know, not having to worry about many things. The more things you have to do on a daily basis, the more you're gonna think about it, the more you're gonna worry about them, and it's just not worth it. I feel like having a car, you know, you have to think about it. You have to add the parking spot. Like my parking spot, I'm renting it, so that's additional income, and I'm renting it for a big price too, like $150 per month. That's
Wow.
crazy. I didn't expect it to rent for that
a parking
much.
spot? Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so yeah, that's additional income. If I had a car, first of all, it's a depreciating the asset, so I wasted some money on that. Second of all, I won't be able to rent out the parking spot. Third, you know, there's the gas or the electricity. You need to recharge it. It's like subscribing to a subscription. Yeah, it's like you have a recurring payment happening all the time, right? For the repairs, the maintenance, all of this. Not having a car just allows me to not even think about it. And because I picked an apartment in a place where everything is here, like, bro, I have a pool here, I have a spa, I have a restaurant, like multiple restaurants at the bottom of the tower I'm in. Taxis here in Dubai are way cheaper than in the West, like way cheaper, maybe twice cheaper or something, maybe less, I'm not sure. But yeah, the taxis are cheap in case I need to go somewhere. But why would I go somewhere? Like all my work is on the computer, right? Plus, I'm a gamer, so I don't even need to go anywhere. And in case if I want to go somewhere with some friends, I will hop in their car and they'll bring me somewhere. Now, I'm saying all of this, but I will probably get a car at some point. Just, you know, once I'm okay with adding a new thing to worry about in my life. Once I'm okay with spending like hundreds of thousands on something and just, yeah. It will probably be actually the Tesla Roadster. Probably will be my first car next year.
Ooh, nice.
Probably. So yeah, no crazy spendings yet. I don't feel like I deserve it yet. I feel like I don't feel as safe financially because again, like most of my money is in crypto. I feel like I will truly feel safe once I buy like a second apartment, which will probably happen in the next few months. Like right now, as I said, I bought HEX, so I'm just waiting on seeing what's gonna happen, right? The amount of profits that I make on that is gonna decide the value of the next apartment. And if we're going for the bull run, right? If that was like the full on bottom and we're going only up from there, then I guess no apartments. I guess I'm just gonna wait for the next bull run to top out. So yeah, and then after that, I will have the peace of mind. I will have the full security, and then I'll probably start spending a bit more and traveling and doing all that stuff.
Like, what's your ultimate goal?
Money-wise,
Sure.
like 2 apartments. Yeah, 2 apartments for full stability. You know, so that I have a renting income and I can live off of that rent income. Like over here, like you can rent apartments for like a high price. Like the one I'm living in, I could rent it for like almost $3,000 a month. So imagine if I just buy a second one just like mine, you know, $3,000 a month passively doing nothing plus HEX. That's really the point from which I will feel happy. I feel like I won't have to worry about money again. Right now I still have to worry because, you know, doing risky trades and stuff. Plus, you know, we never know what's going to happen. We never know if one of those extremely negative scenarios happens, HEX to 1 cent, Bitcoin to 13K and not recovering, you know, something crazy, some recession thing. So yeah, owning like a real thing, like an apartment, a house, that just, I feel like that stays, like no matter the recession, no matter how troublesome the times are, that is just something that you really own in the real world, and that is always going to be valuable.
Are you ready to be a billionaire?
Yeah. Thought about that, yeah. Might
When did you
happen
start
next year.
thinking about it?
I don't know, probably 16. But that wasn't like thinking. I was just, you know, daydreaming, I guess. Now I'm actually considering the possibility, like if Pulse does 100x, if Pulse X does 100x, and HEX goes back to 50 cent. Well, that's probably it, actually. We'll see. Right now, it's very possible, like next year or in 2 years. It really will depend on the whole Richard ecosystem. And if not, I'll have to find something else. I'll have to go back grinding, you know, searching for altcoins. But I believe heavily in the Richard ecosystem right now.
Do you think that HEX will be a long-term savings store of value for you, or do you think that it'll just depend on market conditions?
Well, that's what it is already, right? That's what it is already. Like I'm not investing in anything else. So most other coins, I just traded them, got my profits, and always putting the profits back into HEX. That's what I was doing those past like 2.5 years. You know, because I was like trading back and forth. So, but every time I would make profits on an altcoin, I would immediately put it back in HEX. Like I didn't cash out anything actually until the $1 million mark, actually $2 million mark, because I thought to myself, if I reach like $1 million and I start spending, then I'm gonna go below $1 million, and I'm not a millionaire anymore. So I told myself, hey, $2 million, and then you can start spending. So I didn't cash out anything until like $2 million. So everything that I was making like on other altcoins was always coming back into HEX. That was my stable coin, except for the bear market. Now my stable coin is USDC, right? And now, yeah.
Thank you for your service. That's the
No
real
problem.
service there. Yeah. Wow. So, yeah. So you're ready to get your billionaire energy on, and yeah. So was there a certain point where you thought that would be a reality because of the gains you saw in HEX? Like, what was the biggest milestone for you in HEX, like price wise?
$1 million,
penny?
I would say, yeah. $1 million.
Oh, when you hit
price,
$1 million? Yeah.
I don't remember actually when it was, but yeah, somewhere below a penny.
Right on, right on.
I really like the 50 cent one, yeah. I really like that price. Still very happy about like being able to trade that. And right now I feel like the best move would be the one that I made now, if I'm right. You know, I could be wrong, obviously, but right now, if I'm right about the purchase that I made at 3 cents, that could be probably the best one, because I literally like quadrupled my stack. Like if we go back to 20 cents, 50 cents, that's crazy. So this right now may be the best time.
And would that cause you to sell more or sell less, or kind of just keep recycling to accumulate more HEX?
The cool
or
thing about
USDC?
about rich people is that they don't care about money that much anymore, right? Like there's a big change in your life when you become a millionaire, like the early millions, like 2 million, I would say. After that, it just doesn't really matter anymore. Like you can afford most things, and so you're not really trying to cash out. You're just accumulating wealth, I guess. So I don't like, even if we go back to 20 cents, like I don't really have any incentives to sell, like what would I buy? I guess if I want a yacht, but like I don't really want one, so I already have everything I want. So I'm it's like Richard. I don't need to sell my favorite asset.
Nice. Clip that. And have you had any like symptoms of sudden wealth syndrome when it comes to like being paranoid that the price will go down? It sounds like you have a pretty good balance on your emotions, but I'm wondering if there's been ever a point where it just didn't seem real, or you were shocked that the price went up so much, maybe when it was going to 50 cents.
I'm actually so proud that I didn't sell during this whole 50x move that we had. Because like we had multiple dips. I remember we had like a 50% dip, we had like a 30% dip. I remember them vividly because I was panicking during them, right? Because obviously I was fully focused at that time when we were doing this huge parabola run. That was a huge run. It was very hard to just guess that it was going to do 50x in a few months. Like I was just staying there, being on the ready to just sell the top. But I managed to actually not get washed out on any of those dips. Like 30% dip, I sat through it. 50% dip, I sat through it too. And then actually managed to just hold even at 18 cents. We corrected from 18 to like 11. I remember that was during the sacrifice. And then we continued. We had like some troubles at like 30 cents. I kept the entire way. So that what was the question? I forgot. Yeah. What was the
Like if
question
you
actually?
ever got shocked by the price going up.
Yeah. So that I guess was what I was saying. Yeah. That was when I was shocked by just how it was going forever, right? It was just going and going for like multiple months. It was continuing ongoing. It wasn't like one of those Goodwill comes up and doubles the price in a candle. That's like, that's surprising, but not too much. I remember those times too. I thought it was a bug on like my monitor. I thought it was a bug with Uniswap at that point because it was like a new app. It wasn't too developed. And then so I thought, hey, can I like just sell right now? And then, the app updates and then I can buy back at actually like the price that it's really at. So I remember I sold at that point, and then it took me like a few minutes to figure out, no, it actually happened. Wow, it actually happened. And then it went down like slightly. I bought back up and then it continued going up. Yeah, I literally thought it was a bug and that I could just sell and then, the app would update and I would buy back, but no. So that was slightly shocking, but not that big of a deal because it happened in one candle. The real shock, and I feel like everybody, even all the OGs agree that, 50x progressively, consistently over a period of multiple months, going up like this, that was crazy during a bear market while Bitcoin and everything else was going down. That was impressive.
Absolutely. Are there certain like news outlets or certain like, do you pay attention to mainstream news or do you totally abstain from it? I'm curious.
I watch it. Yeah, I watch it on Twitter usually, so I'm not getting the best information, but hey, I mean, I'm watching like Twitter, YouTube. I'm watching like because like I speak Russian and French. I'm watching usually all the news, right, to get like the best perspective on things. So I'm watching French news, right, like France 24 and stuff like this. I watch Russian news. I watch Chinese news, and I watch American and UK news when I want to really like know about something, right? It's not it's not something I would recommend. You're just wasting your time, but you can do it. It can, it's like as a long-term investor, it's important to check at least the financial news, right? Seeing what's happening with the interest rates, like the housing market in the US going down. So I'm checking on, is the housing market in the UAE gonna go down? It seems like it's not. It seems like, there's so much demand for so many millionaires starting to realize what I have already realized about how great Dubai is. Like like Dubai is like HEX, right? Like most people just don't know how great it is yet. Progressively, like the people started to realize it. We have like all the crypto investors, all the crypto like traders coming in. We have more and more people, especially now with the war in Ukraine. You have all the Ukrainian millionaires coming in, all the Russian millionaires coming in, and so despite like the fact that people are forecasting in the housing market in the US and Europe going down, experts are forecasting the real estate market here going up. And I feel like it just makes sense, right? Just because of the sheer amount of people that are moving in. I mean, it's hard to beat 0% income tax, 0% capital gains tax, 0% property tax. You can't beat that really. You can go to like an island, but you're gonna get the island lifestyle. You're just gonna be on an island. There's not gonna be anything there, and it's usually third world countries. You're gonna have the crime rate that's coming with it. You're gonna have the dirty streets that are coming with it. So Dubai, you're really getting the first world lifestyle. Skyscrapers, everything you want, everything you need, all the services you need, while at the same time getting the tax benefits of like some small Caribbean island. So yeah.
Very good
And
to know.
everybody speaks English, which is not the case in other countries. I see people considering Portugal. People don't speak English there. Malta, most of them seem to speak like French. So that's also important. You want to move to a country where people actually speak English.
Absolutely. Yeah, those things matter, certainly in the quality of life and what you're actually getting. If you're trying to get around taxes, but then you give up a bunch of things that, that you value, then you could be wrecking yourself.
Yeah, and that's why I don't really understand people that are making the choice of moving to like islands, because they're getting the benefits of the taxes, but you're diminishing your overall lifestyle, right? You're moving to like a third world country with like higher crime rates. You're increasing your chances of getting killed. Why would you do that? Here we have like one of the safest country on the planet, literally. Like you can look at the crime rates, you can look at the even GDP per capita. We're higher than the US. Like come on, just you're getting all the benefits that you can hope for while living in a first world country while getting all the benefits of no taxes and stuff like this, right? You have safety, you have like clean roads. The roads here, last time I checked, were ranked like best in the world for the past 5 years consecutively, right? Best roads, best architecture, highest tower in the world, highest pool in the world, highest hotel in the world, deepest pool in the world. They're just building the best that they can. I just don't see it happening in the West. I don't see it happening in Europe. In America, it is debatable. America is doing great, kind of. But yeah.
Cool. Here's a great question from the audience. Did you tell your family and friends about your sudden wealth or keep it quiet?
I kept it quiet for the longest time. I kept it quiet for the longest time. My parents always wanted me to go like to school and stuff. My dad wanted me to be a doctor, like a specialized doctor in France. So that was like 11 years of education. I was like, no, what do you mean 11 years? So I was supposed to go to medical school. I wasn't going there, and I was investing in the meantime while pretending that I was going there. The first time I told my dad was when I had like 100K, and I was getting kicked out. I was getting kicked out of the school because I got zero, literally, on my grades, 0 out of 20 in France. So he was like, "What the fuck is this? I thought you were going going to school, 0 out of 20." Then I had to explain, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. $100,000. Let me do this."
I'm not actually going to college. I'm speculating on cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
That conversation's always an awkward one.
No, he maintained the fact that I should still go there. That it's important to have a diploma, no matter how rich you are. It's still important to have a diploma. I'm still disagreeing with that, but he kind of forgot about it over the not the years, because I haven't been rich that long. Over the months, he kind of
feels like
forgot
years
about
in
it.
crypto, right?
It feels like years, yeah, but
yeah, it's only been a couple months.
it's been pretty recent, yeah. So and friends, yeah, I had like some best friends that were here along the journey. I was just reporting to them every time I would reach a milestone, like, yo, 100K, yo, 150K. And then I remember $1 million. Fuck, I'm going to 900K now, 800, 700, 600. That's when I was panicking. But then it went back up. So That was, yeah. The friends know, but not the school, etc. Like all the people from school from back in the days, like, most people don't know. Only like the close friends know. The family knows. Not even all of the family, because I'm very mixed, right? I'm like Russian, French, and Arabic, right? And so I have like a big Arabic family in Lebanon, and they don't even know. Like they have no idea, but they're not like close family. So yeah.
Do you try to onboard people that you meet in Dubai ever?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I remember I tried to onboard a billionaire here. I tried to do that, but you know the relationship didn't really work out. Like he just left at some point. He was like chilling at the bottom of the tower that I'm in, and so I would talk to him and try to get to know him and stuff, and then start chilling Hex. And I got to know him. I have his number and stuff, but I don't think I can just chill it yet. Maybe at some point, once the relationship goes forward a little bit. I've onboarded like multiple millionaires. Yeah, I've onboarded multiple millionaires from Dubai.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good work.
I mean, yeah. I told them about it. I'm not following exactly what they're doing, but they told me like, hey, yeah, that sounds like a very great product. And so usually they buy. Usually, like last year, right? Last year is when I was onboarding. Usually they don't believe at first, right? They look at the price and they miss out on like a 2x and then they FOMO in. That's usually how it always happens.
And yeah, so I mean, I know that a big selling point or a big marketing point of Hex in the past has been 40% APY. And I think now that Luna has crashed and that we see like other things that promise high APYs not working out, I think that the narrative will continue to need to be individualized for whatever audience, we're appealing to. And I don't pretend to know better than Richard or, other people who onboard more than I do. But I when I was out there at NASCAR, I definitely talked to people for 10 hours straight using the DeLorean as bait to get over 600 conversations happening, 600 pitches at least. Well, it was probably more like 400, and it was sometimes one person, two people, three people, four people at a time. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to point out is that 40% APY can sound scammy. What do you guys tell people if they don't understand where the APY comes from?
Well, usually millionaires are supposed to be smart, so they're supposed to have common sense. And so I'm talking to them usually about like the little tricks that Richard is making, right? Like the little owning like 90% of the supply and using it to choose what interest Hex is gonna have. Owning as much of the supply as possible to never sell it, to make Hex more scarce. All these little tricks, all these little fundamentals is what I'm usually gonna tell people about, because that's what they care about. They care about the price. So I'm not even promoting the interest rate that much in the beginning. I'll talk about it later, but the most important thing is like there's a lot of coins that offer interest, right? And as you said, it sounds scammy to immediately talk about interest. Just give me your money and you're going to receive 40% a year. That sounds scammy. So I'm just talking about how different Hex is through how unique its founder is. Usually that's what I'm talking about. Everybody can just watch 10 minutes of his live stream and be like, yeah, that's a smart guy.
Totally. He even appeals to people who like feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, his last stream has there's been a lot of good memes from that one, huh?
I mean, it seems like the outrage marketing, it's definitely getting more legs to it now than it did in the past. Think about the times that Richard was washing his underwear, in a hotel bathtub. That just didn't have the same virality that we're seeing in his current stunts. And so I think that's kind of interesting that his eccentricities are being more appreciated and hated by people, and he may continue to get more and more traction as a polarizing figure, I think, which will be kind of interesting to see.
I think in the future, once after PulseChain comes out and once PulseChain truly trounces Ethereum, then I could see Richard changing his marketing over time to be less outrage and more product focus. You know, talking about PulseChain a lot more, talking about PulseX a lot more, talking about HEX once they're launched. But in the meantime, while we're in this bear market, you know, downwards place, probably going to continue with the outrage.
I've heard a lot of people say that they were about to give up on crypto and then they found Richard. So I definitely think that now, when there's a lot of pain in the market, you know, it is an opportune time to be out there educating people and that sort of thing. And so I think that that's totally relevant. And at the same time, you know, we don't expect Richard to do the marketing for us. You know, the community is in a lot of ways able to be independent and able to do our own approaches to things. That's kind of interesting. You know, the community is going to be going to a Cubs game tomorrow. I'm going to be there to watch Big Kurkowski throw out the first pitch in his HEX gear. And, you know, we saw from the NASCAR event, whereas normally brand marketing doesn't work very well, there was also the added ingredient in the HEX community of myself talking to people for 10 hours with the DeLorean, attracting huge crowds. Abit and Patrick were out there with their, you know, whips. And then you had Motley, the investor, firing a t-shirt cannon off into the crowd, right? And so it was said that the amount of money that was onboarded into HEX was more than the amount of money that was spent on the brand marketing. And I think that, you know, Richard is right that brand marketing, you know, normally it's a bad deal and people get ripped off. But at the end of the day, when we are doing onboarding as much as we can by making YouTube streams, by talking to billionaires and millionaires in Dubai, by becoming such trusted members of the community, David over there validating transactions and being the #1 validator, right? There's, you know, there is a lot of confidence that gets built around the community.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how much like the Hexicans are promoting their own product. Like very few people in other communities do this. They just completely hope that there's a marketing team, you know, when marketing, and they just hope that the founders do all the work. And in our case, we don't need to expect our founder to do the work. He's just doing it for us. Like we don't even need to ask for it, and we are doing the work too, right? Like everybody's promoting it, and it helps the fact that it's an actual great coin and an actually great product, right? Because you want to promote something that is good. You don't want to recommend to your friends something that is not good, right? I'm not going to recommend Pump to my friends or like Wise to my friends, even though I invested in those coins, but just, you know, a quick flip and that's it. I'm not going to recommend it to my friends because, you know, I'm gonna put them at risk. But HEX, I feel safe promoting it to others. So, you know, the fact that it's a great product allows for more natural, you know, mouth to ear. I guess that's how you say, you know, a promotion. And plus, people like you, Matty, people like other Hexicans. Even though I noticed that, you know, a lot of the Hexican YouTubers stopped, you know, posting when HEX started going down. A lot of them either, you know, reduced the rhythm of posting of their videos are completely stopped, and they're probably going to come back once we're pumping again. But you're actually sticking through the bear market and continuing to pump out the content, and you reach like high viewership. Like I saw that you had like an 11K views video a few days ago. That was great during bear market again. So yeah.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. One of my kids is having a rough time. I got to go help them out.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna jump off for now. But I might be back, but we'll see.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, thanks guys. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Thanks. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, the viewership, I think it's important for us to practice what we preach. For myself as a broadcaster, I did the same thing when I was a therapist. I tried to practice what I preach, and that's where I got the most out of it. And I noticed other people got the most out of it because it's really, otherwise it's just, it doesn't appeal to me as much. And so I'm pumped. And there's, I always hate teasing things that I'm working on that I can't just tell the audience. I like the idea of like, things just being ready and announcing them when they're ready. I am working on something pretty big right now. So I hate to like say that, and I don't know that it's going to work out, so I can't even tease it. But at the end of the day, I think that it's not just myself, but it's other people. When I look around, I see, you know, we did a HEX meetup in Northern Illinois where they had taken a huge tax write-off to donate to an animal shelter. That was getting the word out and attracting other people to the product. We've got Big Kirkowski throwing out the first pitch at the Cubs game. People who want to know about that, you're more than welcome to come to the meetup tomorrow. It starts at 2 p.m., even though the game doesn't start until 7 p.m. You can learn more at my blog. I posted all the details of like where we're meeting and everything like that Big Kirkowski is doing to throw out the first pitch. And that's on my Medium, mattieallen.medium.com. I'll post the link right now. Yeah, it's like, it is kind of hard to see the price of something go down, and like, people may have come in at higher prices. Obviously, they may have come in at lower prices and gotten attached to the high value, the paper value of their wallet. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people who are watching, they realize that HEX is a long-term play. They realize either it's an opportunity for the price to be down, or it's just, it's just a reality of the market that you have to wait sometimes. Sometimes you have to be patient when you don't feel like it. Nobody likes waiting, but at the end of the day, that's what HEX is designed for.
That is actually like a big skill to train. Like that's the worst thing for like hustlers that want to, make it and stuff. Like you're constantly like trying to be motivated and do something every day. But when you're investing, like sometimes the best decision is to not do anything. So that's terrible. Yes. Like I remember, I was having like that drive. Like I felt like I wasn't doing anything. I felt like I was slacking off, but I had to rethink the way I'm thinking and realize that no, that not doing anything is also work. You have to constantly look at the charts and just wait and just continue waiting and wait until it is the right time to make a move. So it's very important to understand that, especially for someone that is doing some normal businesses like e-commerce or something, and you're coming into crypto. It's important to learn that skill to understand that you're still working when you're not moving your coins around.
And that's a major way that I cope with the bear market is I try to add value to the HEX ecosystem. So I'm, out here trying to arrange certain things to help pump my own bags and everybody else's. And that gives me a lot of satisfaction. It keeps me busy. So I don't have to keep going back to, having idle hands, being bored and wanting to trade, because I, dabble in it here and there. And it feels really burdensome to me. One thing I wanted to ask you about is like what your relationship has been to some of the airdrops that have occurred. Have you
the hedge and stuff?
Yeah, have you?
I actually didn't participate like at all. I didn't follow.
Really?
Yeah, I actually stopped caring for a few months. I've just been, not doing much. I haven't been following. No, I know that a lot of people receive money. I remember, some Mexican telling me about it, and I looked at it. I didn't have much because, at that point I had most of my stakes
that's right.
ended, so I didn't have much. I had like $3 or something, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I haven't been following this at all. In
and
normal
what about
times, if I
Pulse
wanted to make
Dogecoin? Have you heard
in
of the
normal
difference
times,
there?
if I wanted to make money, yeah, I would care about it, especially if it's free money or something like Pulse Doge. That seems like the type of thing that I would have invested in like a year or two ago. But again, right now I just don't care. I'm trying to focus on just timing the bottom and just riding the whole bull run back up. I'm not really interested in doing this thing because it was work, right? It was annoying. You had to it was way more worrying, way more stressing out and analyzing the charts and discovering, like Pulse Doge. I have to see who the devs are, where did they come from. I have to analyze this new chart. I have to, think about a strategy and stuff. I just don't feel like doing it at the point at which I am. But, if you want to multiply your money and you're early on, then yeah, that's something that seems interesting.
Absolutely.
Mm.
What's yeah, so that's a really interesting perspective, and I think that's interesting that you've like taken a step back from other things that are built because you want to focus on HEX and being able to trade that in a way that works best for you and doesn't get you distracted.
Yeah, just have less things to worry about, less things in the portfolio. Like a lot of people like to have like 20 coins that they invest in. That's just not what I do. 20 coins, you can't monitor all of them, and you can't properly trade them either. Like those people are just hoping to average, on average make more money than they lose, right? Because they're gonna lose on some of those investments. They just hope that more of them succeed than lose. I'm usually more focused, like maximum maybe 3-4 coins that I'm gonna invest in. I'm not gonna invest in more than that. I'm gonna try to invest at the right times because usually, like, if you if you do your analysis properly, if you do your research properly, then you're gonna find a clear winner out of all of the projects that you're looking at, right? If you're looking at like 5 different projects and and you're doing a lot of research about them, then you're gonna find one that stands out. And in that case, why not just go mostly in that one? If you want to diversify, okay, maybe go 75% in that one and 25% in a second one. That seems to be the closest to the top, right? But yeah, I'm not usually the type to diversify because to me, if you're diversifying, that means you didn't do your research properly. That means you're not you're not doing your investor job. Like the whole point of being an investor, right? If you're calling yourself an investor, is to do research and find out when is the best time to buy and when is the best time to sell, right? That's the whole point of an investor. You just invest at the right time, get out at the right time. So technically, if you're doing your job right, you should know which asset is going to perform better than others. In which case, you should be putting most of your eggs in that basket, right? If you know what's going to happen. And usually, even the people that diversify, they still get wrecked. Like if you diversify like globally, right? If you're in the US and you invested in the real estate market, and then you invested in stocks, and then you invested in index funds, and then you put a little bit in crypto. When all of this is going down, though, like even if you diversified, all of this is going down together, so you're still getting wrecked, even with your diversification. So might as well just put everything in dollar and just wait. Like why diversify even though everything's going down together? And when everything's going up together, well, you should do your research and find out what is going the highest, out of all of these things. And usually it's crypto, so, and then you just zoom in, right? You look at the big markets, where should I invest in? You figure out what is the fastest appreciating one, you go into that one, crypto, then you zoom in, you analyze all the cryptos, okay, which one is the fastest appreciating one? You zoom in, you do your research, you find the best one. Right now, to me, it's HEX. So that's why HEX is the only thing I'm doing right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I find it interesting to hear, the psychology of somebody who's, having success trading. And I see like some people in the chat, I think don't really get it, that, I guess they're upset that traders exist, or, they're not really seeing the value. What would you say to somebody who like is arguing that you're not a true Hexagon or some silly thing like that?
I mean, I'm not looking at chat. I'm not looking at the video while it's going on. I have, my Streamlabs thing, StreamYard thing. So I'm looking at you directly. So
Sure.
I don't know what chat is saying, but I mean, if that's what someone is saying, then hey, as I said earlier, I feel like it's the dumbest take you can have in in crypto. Like not liking traders, you're never gonna get rid of them. Like stop hating on something that you have zero impact on and that you're never gonna change. There's always gonna be traders in everything, even in real estate. There's people flipping houses, just buying them and then flipping them. Oh no, but people can get a house. Who cares? That's not your problem. Like you're never gonna get rid of that, except if you want to change the whole system. Then yeah, maybe if you have like some communistic beliefs, maybe you want to change the whole thing. You want to have things heavily regulated. In that case, that might be a respectable opinion. But if you're like a capitalist or you believe in the free market, then you'll have to deal with traders. You'll just have to deal with them, and there's nothing you can do about them, and there's just gonna still be here, and some of them are gonna outcompete you, and you just have to accept that. That's just the way it is. Then
Well,
yeah.
and in the HEX system, at least, people are getting paid inflation. People are increasing their position in the system. They're getting more HEX for being time locked. And so people, you get to choose which one you want. Do you want to pay the dilution that you're going to experience by keeping liquid and then being able to sell the price down on people's heads? But there's a willing buyer and a willing seller and a willing staker in all of these situations, except, in certain situations, I would say, where, we're fighting with our past selves. If I knew that, if I was so sure that HEX would have gotten to 50 cents, maybe I wouldn't have staked as much and I would have traded it, and maybe the price wouldn't have ever gotten to 50 cents if everybody had that attitude. So it's like everybody who is participating in the system, like they're getting what they deserve in a sense, kind of differently than other markets, because you're being rewarded for holding up the price by time locking, but you're being rewarded by people who are getting a different reward, which is the ability to be able to sell at any time when the price runs up. And so the system kind of balances itself out in the end. Would you say that's accurate, or?
I mean, one thing you get to understand is that most traders are losing money. So even if you don't like traders, well, good for you. Most of them are actually losing money, and oftentimes you're the one, reaping the benefits from it, right? Like from the emergency end stakers or something like this. So as an investor, I mean, as a long-term staker, you're just taking the path of just having a consistent, stress-free, passive income, and you're making money off of all the panickers, all of the people that emergency end stake. On PulseX, you're gonna make money from traders directly. I mean, your asset that you hold is gonna be pumped, with the buy and burn function. Now the other thing, like the fees that get paid to the stakers of PulseX for all the trading fees. So you can, like, the fact that HEX offers those different options is just great, right? Because most coins, you just buy them and the only thing you can do is trade, right? After you buy it, the only thing you can do is sell and hopefully buy back and hopefully sell back or something like this. With HEX, you really have the choice, right? You can, all the traders are getting diluted, so they better trade well if they want to beat the dilution that they're, suffering from. And most traders are not beating it. They have like the inflation to beat too. So it's not something for everyone, and most traders are losing money, I would say.
Absolutely. Do you ever get any FOMO because of the T-share price ratcheting up?
No. Again, like most people should, but I don't, because I'm just, who can just go ahead and quadruple their stack? I mean, that sets me for like 5 years, and like it would have taken me 5 years of staking for that. And I'm doing this not regularly. Obviously, I have some fails here and there, but I can do like plus 40%, plus 50% just with trading. So like quadrupling the stack is not something average. Important to understand. That's literally the first time I did that. So
what I was going to say earlier and almost forgot is that it sounds like you've reached some sort of escape velocity, and that makes your psychology a little bit different than other people, let's say, who would be coming in today into the HEX market with $2,000 or 10,000 or less than 100K. They're not really able to move the markets around. They're, not having the same position you are. And so for you, even comparing like to Richard, you mentioned that, you don't need to sell in certain situations, that that you can afford to be patient and wait for, a market to play out for a year, and you're, only doing trades on 8 different days and that sort of thing, even though you're breaking it up into lots of transactions within those 8 days that you're trading, for example. But would you say that you've that you've reached some sort of escape velocity that changes your psychology different than everybody else?
Well, I mean, I used to be there too, like with a few $1,000s, and also not being able to move the market. And even now, I feel like I'm not moving the market of HEX. I'm being very careful about it. I don't like moving the market, even like 1% price impact. I don't like to do that. I don't like to lose money, and especially, I don't. Obviously, it happened at some point, but I'm trying 99% of the cases to not sell and have a price impact. So, I'm just trading like everybody else. As I said earlier, even with millions, I'm still considering them to be thousands, and I'm trading with them as if they were thousands. The only change that I had is the fact that, it's important to realize that those are millions, and it is important not to lose them. So I'm being more careful, right? Less trading left and right and gambling and doing stuff like this. I'm doing less of that. Even though I wouldn't call that gambling. I wouldn't call it gambling. When you have like a success rate of 60, 70, 80%, that's not gambling. That's calculated investments. Even in coins like Wise or PAMP or stuff like this. You trust Orion Protocol, invested in all of these coins. So yeah, like if someone is starting with $2,000, yeah, that would be the right thing to do, to just trade, multiply it, and hopefully do something like I did, right? Just make a quick 10x somewhere, and then you have 20,000, and then you put those 20,000 in HEX, and then you ride the next bull run, and then you hopefully sell, and then you multiply it again, and then bear market happens, you buy back HEX, and then stuff like this. If you can do stuff like this, yeah, you're gonna make it quickly.
Yeah. How much do you attribute your own success to luck and coincidental timing?
Well, I was looking for something like HEX in the very beginning. I was looking for something like that. Now, even if I wasn't investing in crypto, I would have made it in some other business, right? Like I had a successful e-commerce business before that. It's just that, as soon as I saw that crypto requires less work and, more profits, I just stopped the store and moved fully to crypto. So I feel like, it's all about the mentality, really. If you have a mentality that you just want to make it in life, you're just going to make it like through whatever way. Like I could have been a successful, social media marketing agency. I could have had a successful agency like that. I could have had like a successful e-commerce business, and I had one that started to be successful right like the first few months. So there's so many ways of making money in life that, as long as you want it, as long as you're hungry for it, I guess, as long as you're hustling, it's just gonna happen. Right now, the best way seems to be crypto, but because I haven't been, I guess, hustling for like the past year or so, I've been just chilling and sitting on HEX and just doing a few trades here and there. I'm probably not as aware as some other people might be about what the opportunities are. Maybe there's like something else, like in the shadows that might pop off soon. Some other business or something. So that's what is important to make it. You have to have the motivation, you have to want it, and then you have to search for it, search for the best opportunity. Maybe there's something else that is working right now during the bear market that you could find. I'm just not searching for it because I don't need to anymore, but you probably should if you're starting out.
Yeah, I think like it depends on what type of a person you are and how emotional and experienced you are in the markets. But the more you can teach yourself and practice building your skills, the better. It sounds like you, from a young age, were able to get on the right track, learn the right things, and be successful in an area where it's like the odds are way against you. And in trading, it's like 80% of people lose their money. And so that's a situation where really at least half of people should probably just stay away, right?
I mean, the problem with that statement, and that's probably the only thing I disagree with Richard, is that yes, most people lose money in trading, but most people lose money in starting a business, and most people lose money in becoming famous YouTubers, and most people lose money in being a pro player, and most people, or not becoming pro players, I guess, and most people are not becoming famous, right? So does that mean you shouldn't try? No. So same thing with trading. It's one of those things. It's one of those statuses that you can reach. You know, pro player, pro trader, I guess maybe pro investor. You know, a famous person, famous like YouTuber or Twitch streamer. There's so many things that you can achieve that will make you successful, and all of them are extremely hard. Like all of them, like more than 90% fail at achieving those statuses. So yeah, I mean, it's just part of the game. It's like if you want to be successful, you're gonna have to compete with others, and you're gonna have to defy the odds. Like there's no, you're never gonna have like a thing that is like 90% success rate, right? Oh, I'm gonna become so successful and so rich through a thing that is 90% success rate. It's always gonna be like, 80%, like you said, for trading, or maybe more even of fail rate, and you're gonna have to be among the best to actually be successful at that thing. Except if something is starting out, right? If something is starting out, not enough people know about it, maybe, everybody can be successful in that. So maybe Bitcoin was the case, HEX was the case, but those, again, even those you need to be successful at researching, right? You need to be a pro researcher. Like I was researching for it, right? I didn't just stumble on it randomly, even though the first video of Richard was through a woman that was on his thumbnail, but still I was looking actively, literally, like searching, watching crypto videos at the time, like where, like is there something like underground that nobody knows about that I could invest in? I was literally searching for that. And when I heard Richard speak, I was like, hey, that's exactly what I was looking for. So I didn't even like stumble on it by luck, right? People that are lucky oftentimes just put themselves in situations where they get lucky. So that's a skill on its own, right? Knowing how to research properly, knowing how to put yourself in the right spots. Like you can argue that if I didn't go to Vegas, I wouldn't have met you. Wouldn't have met like all the other guys, like the Wells, the Karim, and all of these guys. So me going there, me making the active decision of moving there for the event, allowed me to, I guess, get lucky and just meet people and just, it didn't really advance my career in any way, but still, I met people, and it could have led to something big. And it was hard, right? Like I don't know if you remember, like that was during like the COVID thing, and I was in France at the time, and there were, I believe, if I remember correctly, I wasn't able to just take a plane to the US or something,
You had to go
and
through
I needed to
Mexico or
get
something.
I needed to get vaccinated before going there, and I didn't
Mm.
I didn't want to get vaccinated with like the mRNA vaccines. So I moved to Russia, but I couldn't move to Russia, so I had to, escape by a train, move to Spain. In Spain, I took an airplane to Moscow. I got vaccinated in Moscow, and then I moved to the US. So all of this, it was like an entire month of planning just to get to
Wow.
Vegas, right?
For the
And it
meetup
was
that
my first
happened
time.
at
Yeah.
June 23rd last year. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was my first time in the US, and it wasn't just for the event. I went to Texas at that time. I remember at that time I was considering like living in Texas. Actually, I got scammed by the statements that there's no taxes in Texas, but there's actually no state taxes, but there's still federal taxes. And most people around the world are not used to that system, that federal system, I guess. But yeah, there's still federal taxes, but there's no state taxes. So I thought, it was one of the options of where I could live in, but then not really. Plus the heat also, like the heat was terrible. Like Austin, Houston, man, it's actually worse than Dubai. That's also another misconception that people have. Like it's way hotter in Texas than it is in Dubai, despite it being a desert and stuff like this. The
Wow.
humidity levels matter. Like when I was in Austin, summer of last year, literally like in the same summer I went to Dubai, so I experienced both in the same like summer, right? In the same month, I believe, even in July and August. And so yeah, like the humidity levels are what really matters. In Houston, in Austin, the humidity was so high that you literally can't walk around for like more than 5 minutes without just becoming a fountain. Like you're just so wet, it's crazy. You can't survive that. I don't even know how Dubai manages to do it. Like even the weather is perfect because technically it's very humid. Like I'm looking at the thing, it's 60% humidity, so that's like the perfect level, right? It's very humid over here, but you don't get this sweatness. You don't get this, unbearable heat. It's like dry. It feels like it's dry outside, but it's actually humid. It's kind of like
Dry
Vegas, right?
heat.
Like,
Yeah.
like in Vegas, it's dry heat, but the bad type of dry heat. It's so dry that I remember like it was my first time in a desert like this, and so my skin around the nail started peeling off, right? Because my skin was extremely dry, right? It's the first time something like this happened. So I felt the dryness of Vegas, and then I felt the extreme humidity of Texas, and then Dubai, you know, you get the humidity, but you don't get the bad side of it, and you get the yeah, you get the feeling as if you were in Vegas without the skin dryness, and you get the benefits of like it being humid. So all in all, what I'm trying to say is that it's not as hot actually as in Texas. I would argue it's hotter, or I guess technically it's hotter here, but it's more unbearable in Austin and Houston.
Uh-huh.
Like over here, you can walk around like 30 minutes outside and like probably gonna sweat like a normal person. In Austin, I was going out like 2 minutes outside, I'm already wet. It's already unbearable.
Yeah, we've had a heat wave in the Midwest here that has been really brutal. I did my 4 mile run yesterday in this like 96-degree heat, and the humidity had to have been like 1,000%. It was like super miserable. Today I didn't even run because
Yeah.
it's too hot. So
It literally slows you down. Like it makes you not want to go outside. That's
yeah,
actually
yeah,
yeah.
totally. So that's important in the quality of living and that sort of thing that people are such as yourself are considering, and Hexicans are considering when they're deciding and researching where to live.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about was like to just kind of commend you and kind of call you out in a positive way. It seems like when you came on the show before, you were kind of warning people against euphoria, and you were kind of taking this unpopular position that the price of Hex could go down. You ended up being right. And it's the same like kind of big moment that I saw with Motley, the investor, was kind of similar, where he put himself at a disadvantage for the benefit of others when he announced this huge pumpamental that he had discovered in Hex when it came to like being able to sacrifice Hex itself, which ended up like probably causing a lot of people to change their behavior and for the price to pump. So I see you and him like being really good examples of people who did something that could have benefited you more to keep it quiet, and instead you told people. So can you tell me why you were being so altruistic?
I mean, I actually don't even know that guy. I don't know most Hexicans. Like, I know only the Hexicans that I met in Vegas. There's a lot of
Okay.
Hexicans that I would need to meet at some point. I don't like even like only know them by name. I'm not following really many people, and I feel like that's why I guess I'm altruistic. I didn't even think about that. I'm just I just don't care. I don't have an audience. I don't I'm just saying the truth. I say what I believe in, and I don't care if people get mad either. So I'm not a personality. I don't have an audience to manage or have to adapt to that audience or something. I just show up one time every year or something, and I just say what I have to say, and that's it. And then see you next year, I guess. So that's why. I mean, and also I would feel bad, like even my friends, right? Even if it's in my interest to encourage someone to buy, like even the billionaire, I wouldn't have told him to just buy, right? I would have explained to him everything, including the negatives. It's just something that I feel like I should be doing, right? I shouldn't lie to anyone. I shouldn't, make them overly hyped up about something. I don't want anyone to like follow my advice blindly, right? I'm just saying what I feel like, what I'm seeing, right? and I'm explaining how I arrived at that conclusion, and I hope that other people make their own decisions. Same thing with like the recent thing, right? Like I personally bought at 3 cents, right? But that doesn't mean it's actually the bottom, because Richard is talking about Bitcoin at 13K. If Bitcoin continues falling to 13K and the HEX continues following, well, hey, it could go under 3 cents, right? So there's always the negative scenario that you should consider. Plus, in HEX, you never know. Like there's always like some random dudes coming up and just dumping the price 30% in one candle. That could happen anytime, and I would be wrecked, right? I would be wrecked. So it's just, you never know when someone like this comes up. So it's important to point that out. You have to be prepared mentally, right? Again, I would still recommend investing in HEX. I'm investing in HEX despite knowing the fact that that guy can show up and dump the price like 40%. I'm still invested because now you manage the risks, but you should know about the risks, and you should know if you can manage them or not, right? If you have like something important coming up, maybe keep the money on the side. If you have money that you can just throw around, then then you should. It's really a matter of probability, right? Like, are we more likely to go up or down? Right now, I would say 65% more likely to go up. 65% up, 35% down. So that's why, I mean, that's enough for me. Maybe for other people, it's not enough. Maybe a lot of people are waiting for actual confirmations, right? A lot of people are waiting for like a clear trend reversal and setting up of higher lows and stuff like this. A lot of people are just waiting for Bitcoin to bottom out at 13K. If to each his own. I feel like there is a possibility that HEX will not follow Bitcoin, so that's why I prefer to take the risk. Like we've seen, I believe, like Bitcoin from 26K fell down to like 20K, and HEX didn't move that much during that time. So we're starting to see some little decoupling, right? Like HEX, I remember watching Bitcoin, and HEX didn't go down with Bitcoin at some point recently. Also, we're seeing that Ethereum is starting to not follow Bitcoin, right? If you look at the Ethereum against Bitcoin, you're starting to see like a clear uptrend, right? On the 1 hour, maybe on the 4 hour too. Yeah, on the 4 hour. So you're starting to see like Ethereum is starting to slowly decouple from Bitcoin. Ethereum is starting to maintain its price while Bitcoin is going down. HEX right now is going up against ETH. So like we're seeing the best case scenario right now, right? Like ETH is going up against Bitcoin, HEX is going up against ETH. That's crazy. If it continues that way, then even if Bitcoin reaches 13K, we could still be higher in HEX. So we don't necessarily need to go down like we did in the past few weeks. We don't need to follow Bitcoin at all times. And right now, the more I observe those things, the more it goes, I guess, in my favor. If it starts reversing, I'll probably just change my mind. It's important not to have like, it's important to constantly be free flowing, I guess, like reactionary, constantly react to what's happening. So if something new comes up, yeah, I'll probably change my mind. For now, there seems to be way more positives than negatives.
Well, I'm glad you were able to explain that so comprehensively, because I think that that's where some interviews and broadcasters kind of go wrong, is they don't explain the full extent of their reasoning, and they'll say, I'm buying right now, and then they don't tell you when they're selling. And so the audience kind of gets misled, maybe not intentionally. In some cases it is intentional, but when people are really breaking down like the probability of what they're thinking, and like how, you might reverse your strategy. If it goes down from here, you might, cut your losses and, go back into a dollar position where you could buy back lower. That's part of the nature of what you're doing. And it, I think, so I like how you put that so comprehensively. If people out there are appreciating this, somebody just accused us of being a bunch of bots watching because the chat isn't flying by so much. I think it's because we've been focusing on the conversation here, and there are streams that I do where I read just about every comment that there is, but today we haven't been doing that. So if anybody has a question for Dan, I think we're getting ready to wrap up here, but go ahead and spam the chat with all your bot behavior and real behavior alike, and hit the like and subscribe button while you're at it, and that way we can prove to the haters that there are real people watching and increase the engagement. all at the same time.
Do you have a baby?
No,
Do you have a wife?
no.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay. Time to reverse who is actually asking the questions. uh, okay. So what are your plans actually? Like long term with HEX?
Yeah, I would say like I'm really interested in continuing to find a balance between the broadcasting end of things and the technical side of things in terms of, last year around this time, I got this awesome opportunity to work with somebody, a developer who was willing to work for free because they're a Hexagon, and we just collaborated to make go.tshare.app. And that really like felt good to me. It was something that kind of satisfied the urge to create things and be technical and be able to design and that sort of thing. So any opportunity that I have to like make a contribution that can be an actual tool that people are using, I've kind of fallen into the role of being a broadcaster and organizing events. So I've liked doing that, and I want to keep doing that to get the word out about mental health and about HEX, and kind of grow a following that can, it's, you were there for the HEX meetup. It's really awesome to feel the energy of everybody when they all come together. So I'd like to continue going to things where I'm organizing it and going to things where I'm not organizing it and I just get to enjoy, like tomorrow at the Cubs game. In my personal life, I have a serious relationship that's going super well. So that's where I spend some of my time. I also spend some of my time like personally developing myself. So that involves exercise and, trying to find the right balance of what to eat, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with life as it is. But there's always like, more skills to be had. I'm always learning new things and getting a little bit better at stuff. So
Yeah, that's something I figured out this year also. I got used to drinking water. I got used to only just drinking water. I gave up on all the sodas. 3 liters of water a day. I have like 5 different brands because like once you become like a water drinker, you start seeing the difference between the brands. So I have like 5 big boxes of different brands, and I just pick a bottle every day. That's the best health achievement I would say that I had this year. Just not drinking any sodas at all. Just from time to time, like some juices from freshly pressed fruits. But yeah, that's very important. Drinking water. You're promoting like omega 369s. I also got used to that. Got used to eating salmon. I used to hate salmon. It's you can really make yourself like whatever you want again if you put your mind to it. So now I like salmon. I used to hate salads. Now I like salads. I just read all the health benefits that those have, and I was like, okay, well, it doesn't make sense not to like them, so might as well like them. And so now I'm trying to do this too, eating salmon or just eating fish in general 2 times a week. So yeah, health is very important. Health is very important, and money allows you to actually have a healthy lifestyle. Like money is really just allows you to eat those things. Usually salmon is expensive. I remember it was expensive. So yeah. And so you're gonna continue developing like your show. You're gonna continue promoting all those
Yep.
things that you're promoting. And money wise, like let's say you become a billionaire in like 2 years too. What are you gonna do with the money?
Whoa, that's a good question.
Are you gonna invest it into like psychological research, like research on how to heal like Parkinson's and some other diseases, something like this?
So I have done some stuff with the Sense Foundation to promote them, and working with Aubrey de Grey and the Methuselah Foundation as well. So I could see myself continuing to try to help out with those causes to decrease the effects of aging. Specifically, I would love to put together like a working team so that I can produce these sleep headbands that Philips used to make before they got discontinued. recently, but I used one of those for about the better half of like a year and a half, the better part of a year and a half. And it's like, it's a device that I think I would, I'd like to see that be produced again. And that can actually lead to reversing Alzheimer's, or basically to preventing Alzheimer's, because of how our memories get backed up when we sleep. They need slow waves to back up our memories. And it's the headband is able to play sound waves that are slow waves that it's not going to wake you up. You're not going to hear it, but it measures your brain waves. So one of the backgrounds that I have is in measuring brain waves. And so that's something that kind of like I've been able to check out myself. I saw that it was like the next level up from omega-3, or maybe like second or third or fourth level up from that. But that's something that I guess I would pursue if I had even more resources, than I have now. Right now, I've been keeping it like pretty like tight when it comes to, like my gains. I decided to rebuy my TShares on a 15-year ladder last year around this time, and I'm planning to do the same this year. And so HEX would really have to take off in order for me to really cash out some insane amount of money. So I've been using that to just regulate myself and to try to, keep my sudden wealth syndrome in check, like keep myself like oriented towards the future. And at the same time, I've been able to buy, just kind of like you've indicated, I've been able to buy everything I need, and then some. And so I'm not hurting for money, but I think that like, yeah, there are some things that, I would use my delayed gratification for if it came around. And, but I think rebuying those TShares is, it's something that's going to be difficult for me, but it's something that I'm going to keep doing probably. So, like, it's part of my long-term plan that I want to stick to.
Yeah, no, as you said, I mean, we're being rich just allows us to not have to sell anymore. Like literally, the thing that we're focusing on is where can we put the money that we generated, right? Where can we put it? And then we just arrive at the conclusion, like, why not put it in the highest appreciating asset there ever was? And then you zoom in, which one is the best, the most transparent one, the trustless, passive income generating one? Well, HEX. So it just makes sense, right? You just put your money on this and you don't need to sell. So a lot of us are very beneficial for just the price, especially when we keep on buying. Like you'll probably have like some income with like YouTube or like some other things, and you're probably putting this income back into HEX. So I don't have an income, but probably if I buy a second house, I'll have the rent income, and I'll probably be putting some of that into HEX too. So that's like perpetual buying, right? Like perpetual buy pressure, and no selling because we don't need to. So that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that like another thing I focused on was just trying to provide value and pay it forward instead of being profitable on like the events that I've thrown. And so that was a big decision that I think like had its pros and cons and everything, but I'm pretty happy with where I stand on all that, again, because I think that it's something that money can't buy necessarily. It's like being able to try to help more people and trying to like really practice what I preach. So
yeah, and I mean it allowed some Hexicans to connect, and probably some of them connected and decided to make something together that ended up benefiting HEX. So you never know when things like this happen, right? You're putting together like 300 people. Some people are gonna forge bonds and maybe make something happen, especially when everyone was so passionate, right? Like I was there, everybody was so passionate about HEX.
Yeah.
So this is the right things to do, even if you can lose money on it short term. Long term, it's gonna come back, right? So
yes,
it's a worthwhile investment. And I also like donated to one of these things actually, like the tour in the US. I remember
nice.
I donated the highest amount to this. I donated the highest amount.
Congrats.
I remember Tony told me, hey, the highest amount was like 26K. I was like, okay, I'm giving 27. Something like that. So yeah. And I didn't care about it, right? Like it was a lot of money. I could have bought something else with it, but I was like, hey, giving back to the community, number one. Number two, these people are doing phenomenal work, like the Crypto Sparbook, etc. They're just traveling, doing the marketing for us while I'm chilling, playing games. They're traveling and promoting HEX, so might as well give them 27K. Let them use that for themselves and use that for promoting HEX. So it's
for
useful. Sometimes you're losing money short term, but long term it's going to benefit everyone in the ecosystem.
For the record, I still am a huge supporter of Crypto Sparbock, but I was very surprised that Freedom TV and Tony were doing some like really unethical things, in my opinion. And so I don't really I don't air that to the community. I just kind of like bring it up from time to time. It's just like, I'm not going to bring any drama about it, but people should be careful about what they, what type of things they sponsor. And at the end of the day, it's like, everybody should, be free to do whatever they want. But we also it's for me, I need to find like that balance of like, being honest with people, because I'm the one who brought that person into the community. Kind of like I cross promoted with them for a long time, and it's like I don't want to be associated with anything they're doing now. But Crypto Sparbock, totally cool.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what they're doing. I just gave them the money. I told them, hey, you better use that wisely, and that's it. I don't know where they actually spent it. I mean, I remember they told me that they used it to buy HEX, and then they were giving it away to people at those little conferences that they were doing, right? In every city, they would have like a little thing, a little stand, and they would give that away. Like they would have little games, and they would give it some HEX away to people that win the little games. So I remember they told me that that's how they were using some of the money, which is a nice way, It's like a free gift to get someone interested, and then it's gonna force them to create a MetaMask. It's gonna force them to create an account. It's gonna force them to look into what they just got, and then they might buy some more. That was a nice strategy.
Totally, yeah, and we can talk more offline about like what's up with that. But I think that there's some great questions here in the chat if we can address those. I think one question people have is like, what's your take on Maxi?
Who is that?
So the answer is probably that you have not been researching side projects, and you've been sticking with HEX itself, not.
In recent months, yeah. Like since we started the bear market and end of last year, I just stopped caring in general. I stopped looking around. I mean, I have some friends that are still, hustling and sending me some projects from time to time, like, hey, what do you think about this or that? But yeah, nothing too special.
Somebody's asking, there isn't much HEX available to buy. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, it's never gonna dry up. It's never gonna dry up. I feel like Richard is not gonna allow it to dry up. That's just gonna be a scam, I guess. If you can't sell, if you can't buy it anymore, it's just gonna be terrible. So there's always gonna be enough liquidity for people to do what they have to do. It just, like in my case, it can take like 5 hours, 10 hours to actually make one sell if you're doing it properly and without market dumping or something. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a positive, right? Richard is doing, he's been talking about this for a few months. He's been saying how, he's doing it on purpose. The less liquidity, the easier it's going to be to pump. We're literally at minus 93%. Like, how much lower can you go? There's literally so much potential upside. So it's the best time to have low liquidity. It's the best time. There's more potential upside, right? We already went like all the way minus 93%. So now the probability of going up is just higher. So might as well not have a lot of liquidity at those times.
That's right. Here's a question that's been asked multiple times. Thanks for being patient there and finding the right balance to keep asking it, because I want to know the answer as well. Do you have any predictions on the pre-launch ratio to expect between HEX and Pulse?
I feel like you can guess that. You can't guess that, so why would I try to guess that? I have no idea.
That makes sense to me.
We'll just see. I'll just be very alert. When it launches, I'm gonna stay awake the entire time, and I'm gonna analyze everything right as the information comes out. I'm gonna see and try to make quick decisions. Like before that, the thing that I'm gonna do and that I'm gonna advise other people to do is to just try and anticipate all the possible scenarios. I just sit down, take like a sheet of paper, a pen, and just spend a few hours just brainstorming, thinking, okay, what are all the different paths that this whole launch can take, right? Like, what if it dumps right after it launches? What if the ratio is high? What if it's low? And just imagine yourself, okay, if it's high, what am I gonna do? If it's low, what am I gonna do? If Pulse launches and it pumps immediately, what am I gonna do? What if it dumps? Do I sell? Do I not sell? How much do I sell? Do I keep? Do I wait? How long do I wait? 1 month, 2 months? What do I want to have more of? PulseX or PulseChain? What is going to outperform the other one? Okay, that requires a lot of research and thinking which one is going to outperform the other. Because technically, if you're doing your research right, well, you're going to find one clear winner. In that case, why not just put all your money into that clear winner? So a lot of thinking will be required. I didn't even do that thinking yet.
Very good advice. Very, very good. People can rewind and write those questions down and answer them yourselves.
It's 8 a.m. I'm kind of dying right now. I stayed
Right
up
on.
the entire night.
We really appreciate you giving us your time here for over 3 hours. It's not every day that we get to talk to somebody who has such a interesting perspective in the HEX ecosystem. And so thank you so much. This will be an easy one to wrap up. Do you think HEX would be better off with or without the OA?
Of course, with the OA. Come on, I wouldn't have invested if it wasn't for the OA. Like, people don't understand. Like, all these little things that people worry about, those are the things that make me buy, that make smart people buy in general. Like, what are you on about? That's like the whole reason why HEX is special is because of these little things that make it special, right? Like the whole control that the OA has. It's like a benevolent dictator. It's like why I moved to Dubai, right? Like, we have a dictator here, but he's a benevolent dictator. So he's developing the country. That's what you want to have. That's like Richard, right? Benevolent dictator. That's great. Because most coins are kind of like dysfunctional democracies. So it's like, do you prefer this or do you prefer to have the other thing? I prefer this. Like, this literally made me go here. One of the reasons that made me go here, and that's one of the reasons that made me buy HEX. It's because of the centralization. It's because of the probably more than 90% ownership that Richard has. It's probably because of the OA, the OA's control, etc. Those are the things that are setting HEX apart. If it wasn't for these things, it would just be like a random coin offering some random interest. Okay, it's trustless. Wow, it's still, this really makes you like safe, because also like the fact that he can like decide the interest that we get is pretty crazy, because the first year the interest was very low. That's also one of the reasons why I didn't stake long term, and I didn't stake that much, was because like the first year people don't necessarily remember, but it was less than 10% interest rate. It was terrible. and only when other competitors started showing up did Richard decide to, okay, we're gonna raise it to 40% so that we're competitive against the others. But like the entire first year it was like less than 10%. So this allows us to always stay competitive compared to, for example, a project that tried to be like a democracy, right? Like Wise, they tried to be a democracy. They were like, no, we don't like the OA. We're gonna do the same thing as HEX, but we're gonna do it better according to them, being like decentralized and the owner not owning anything and stuff like this. Well, they tried and it completely failed. It's one of the most beautiful chart when you reverse it, right? It's literally a diagonal going down. It's beautiful. I come back to it and just look at the chart just to see like how beautiful it is. Literally diagonal going down. And so yeah, like this is what you should look at, right? Like, if you have questions about the OA, okay, look at a competitor that tried to make a HEX without the OA. Look at them. Look at what happened with them. Well, do you want that to happen with HEX? No.
Those are super good points. You definitely finished this interview strong, and I know a lot of people appreciate it. everybody out there, hit the like and subscribe button, and give it up for Dan the Hex Shark. Thank you so much for
Yay.
being on, and looking forward to lots of future meetups and opportunities for us all to celebrate our success here in Hex.
Yay.
Awesome. I'm gonna it's gonna take me just a second here to upload the end screen for the Twitter people, and then we'll sign off. Let me see. I made so many thumbnails for a bunch of different stuff coming up. Here we go. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Stake wisely. Yeah,
Yes.
stake wisely, my friends, and peace out.
Stay safe.